Hello, good evening, everybody. I think I tabbed out of the game a little too soon, so it may not load properly, but we will endure. Oh, well, my preview's showing me the game, so we'll live with that. Sorry for a little bit of a later start. I was actually very tired. I've been trying to work a bit on um, my sleeping patterns. In particular, I'm also trying to get up a little bit earlier in the morning. And one of the challenges that's coming up is that I'm very good at following my usual streaming hours, which means going to sleep later than I normally would want. And I'm getting up earlier, but I'm not. I'm not necessarily like obviously I'm not getting the sleep needed. So I kind of came home and I just sort of slumped into a chair, and the next thing I know I just kind of like I sort of like zoned out for a few hours. Speaking of zoning out, okay, it looks like the game is actually loading, so I'm just gonna watch on my preview here. Fortunately, I can't quite make out the quote because it's about, yeah, it's like 6 point font. Hey, there it is. All right, so let's go. Um, there's too many save games now, but I believe this is where we left last time. Obviously, it's a little bit of a. Oh, it is not possible for Rome to fall while Scipio stands, nor for Scipio to live when Rome has fallen. So obviously, this is a little bit of an unusual choice to play tonight, not because we haven't been doing a bunch of Imperator Rome. Obviously, I was given a key by Paradox, and I tremendously appreciate them doing that. But Paradox is doing a 24-hour stream before the game is released, and so I am obviously competing with the thousands that are watching them. Hello, Pax, how you doing? But with that in mind, I wanted to give it a good proper send-off. I have had a really wonderful time sharing this game with you, so I hope you all have found it worthwhile as well. And I figured it'd be fun to give the game a proper send-off. I will be returning to that. Yes, that was I was late in spotting it, but it was definitely a fun one to take a look at. I've not actually seen that meme before, so it was fun. But yeah. Actually, I believe I need to reunite the Second Legion with. Yeah, they're getting their late troops. So yeah, before we go too much further, obviously, thank you to Paradox for letting me have the key, and of course, as is always the case, if you are trying to make some kind of a purchasing decision, or if you simply want to know some of the interests in, the content that you're seeing. It has always been true that I've had a dedicated Paradox game or day on the stream. I have been streaming Paradox games long before I was ever given keys by them, but in the end, it is ultimately up to you to decide whether or not the information about being given keys is relevant. So, I'm happy they did. I hope you're happy that they did. Yeah, we've been enjoying a nice early look at Imperator Rome. And if you are interested in sort of the whole journey, I have started uploading the episodes to YouTube. So the first one is up now. The second one should be up later tonight. And it'll continue in that way. I'm basically gonna catch up with the episodes that haven't been uploaded I'll basically do one a day until I'm on track. It's also partially to make sure that they upload at the right time. I know I'm rather bad for doing things in big batches, and then they get messed up in terms of the order. Hello, Sean Bean. You think Paradox should be thanking me at this rate? Nah, not at all. It is mutually beneficial. And Kicknick, thank you very much for coming by yet again. I'm always happy to see regular faces coming through. I'll do a little bit of housekeeping stream-wise, just because I have not forgotten that Cultist Simulator exists. And I know some of you have been very patiently waiting for more Cultist Simulator material. It will be on its way. But I do also, I mean, one, it doesn't hurt to try new things. And of course, we did finish our first New Game Plus victory. So in this case, you know, it wasn't a terrible time to have some extra days set aside to just get a little bit extra done. But we'll be returning to that next week. I do know that this is normally a Cultist Simulator day. And of course, most importantly, if you are anticipating this game, couple things to remember. If you want to get the pre-order bonuses, your window is rapidly closing. The pre-order bonuses are a bunch of unit skins and events which are related to Pyrrhus, famously known for the Pyrrhic victory. But yeah, basically the looks like Paradox is also streaming on Steam. That's really cool of them, because not a lot of developers do that. But yeah, so the Epirus Flavor Pack, you will get a unique army model, a unique ship model. There's a special monument, 6 event chains related to Pyrrhus, and 1 new music track. If you get the deluxe version of the game, there is the Hellenistic World in-game flavor pack. That'll be music, land units, ship units, map monuments, and events. In addition, the deluxe edition of the game comes with a digital art book, wallpapers, Paradox Forum icon, and Forum avatar. Of course, that doesn't matter if you whether or not you buy the game on release day or beforehand. And then finally, if you want the Imperator unit pack for Europa Universalis 4, you need Imperator Rome, Europa Universalis 4, a Paradox account, and to link it to your Steam account. So they're giving you some incentives to do that. Finally, if you want to play the game multiplayer, I am told that apparently it depends on what platform you buy the game on. So if you have a GOG copy, you need to make sure that your friends have a GOG copy as well. If you have a Steam copy, you need to make sure that your friends have Steam copies as well. All right. There is the, I think that's all the salesmanship and the housekeeping taken care of. Valken to you, the man, the myth, the legate. Nicely done. There's quite a few of you already. So we'll do a quick recap of where we're at, and then we will unpause and move into the game. So of course we started fairly early on. You know, Rome had started small, and we've certainly expanded out. We most recently pushed our manpower to the absolute limit by taking a nice slice of Alexander. Well, it was not actually Macedonia at the time, but Macedonia had taken some territories that we had our eye on, and we fought Macedon, which was guaranteed by Egypt, as well as the Seleucid Empire. The good news, of course, is that our fleets were able to keep the Egyptians from getting too involved. Macedon had not very much manpower, and so Thrace was the real worry. Let's just take a quick look at Macedonia and see where they're at. Okay, so they do have subjects, and they are still guaranteed by the Seleucid Empire and Egypt. So I believe we still have a truce. Oh, we do not still have a truce. So that is going to be something I need to keep in mind. It's very unlikely that they're going to come alongside. Apparently we have got insane support for this. Well, the religious I'm a member of the religious faction for sure. It looks like it's the popularity of my ruler that's causing that. Good to know. So essentially, we threw the very last last bit of manpower that we had into sort of subduing Macedonia. Now, what had happened immediately following that was there was an invasion from some of the Gauls. In this case, this tribe right here. We've got the settled tribe of in Serbia. They're currently. They used to be at war. I actually think now they're. Looks like they're just digesting a whole bunch of conflict. The thing to remember is that they have got a lot of manpower. I have troops that will absolutely clobber them if it comes down to it. But I do need to keep myself. I need to keep myself wary. They're also a very natural target for expansion. We'll go into that in a little bit. But right now, I want to rest on my laurels, quite literally. We are tapped out on manpower because not only did we push back the invasion, we had a rebellion. In this case, the way that rebellions work is that if you have got subjects or regions which have a certain number of a foreign culture and they are disloyal, they will break off, they will effectively declare independence. And if you want to keep them in the empire, you need to re-invade them. You essentially need to reacquire them. And as it turns out, the fight for Sardinia was quite bitter, and this was because essentially there's just too many cities where they're able to build up units, and of course they have access to iron. Where's the trade goods? Right here. And so they were able to build heavy infantry in a way that the newly made Croton could not. So you notice my units are in decent enough shape as far as numbers are concerned, but I simply cannot afford to have them go into another extended campaign because essentially I'm just going to see my legions tick down, and then I won't have any gas in the tank left if Macedon wants to reacquire its territories and such. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be sitting back, we're going to be letting that manpower tick up, and we have amassed quite a bit of wealth. This is largely due to the fact that I wanted to keep some money left aside. Veneto, so is it Veneto or Venetio? Anyways, it must perish. We'll paint this entire map red, but we will do so after we've got some manpower. I won't go to the full 285,000. That will take us a very long time, specifically 285 months, which I don't know about you, but that seems, actually it'll be even longer than that, but that seems like a bit of a wait. To acquire new territories. I figure Rome can probably wait more than 23 years to get that's probably closer to 24 actually, to get some new territories. So the plan here is to say, all right, we're not going to be engaging in any campaigns. We do need to defend ourselves, so I need to make sure that I've got the right people in the right regions for a fast response. That was essentially how we were able to deal with the rebellion. But what I basically want to be doing right now is I want to be thinking about some actions that I can take to make sure that Rome is being effectively governed, that we're able to maximize our position so that when our manpower goes up, we're going to be in a better position to, to take advantage of it. So let's maybe start. I do have a research ratio I need to deal with. That's largely going to be... Actually, that was something I was meaning to do. I was meaning to read up a little bit on how I can maximize citizen output, but we'll worry about that a little bit later. What I'm going to start doing is I'm going to deal with some of my obvious problems like the trade routes. We're going to assign governors again. And then, unfortunately, there's not a lot I can do about these barbarians because they took this fort. And if I move my legions off of this fort, it's actually going to use its zone of control and take these cities. So it actually gives me a really good argument for taking Inzubria. But again, we have our manpower problem, so we'll leave them be for now. Let's start with the governor. So it is Carthage that needs a new governor. So Claudii are very unlikely to get an assignment here, and this is just because this guy's a populist. Postumae, maybe. Probably would be better for the Decii or Decii. The Fabii are completely ignored right now, but this is because Spurius Fabius is a populist. Actually, what's he? He's turning into a good religious man, so how old is he, though? And he wants to become a great warrior, although he's foolish. The only person unaware of just how gullible Octavius is seems to be Octavius himself. Surely, oh, he's 15 years old, so I wonder if that's like Crusader Kings and you become a man at 16. The Julii are presently without some love, so maybe we will appoint them. So what have we got? We got the Postumae, Semproni, Claudii, Curii. Here's a Julii. I mean, not the best finesse that I could go for, but we're going for it. All right, governor's taken care of. I was wondering when somebody would start showing those oct. Apparently, Octavian does not name himself after the famous Roman. I was a little surprised by that. Does the map feel huge? It is a very large map, so I think the things that's deceiving about the map here is that if you're used to Europa Universalis, you of course see the entire globe. But the big trick about this one is think about how many provinces Italy has in the case of Europa Universalis. In fact, I believe Paradox has specifically given the number. Now, as far as provinces are concerned, that's the higher level, right? So right now, my territory consists of about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 or 21 or 22 provinces is my guess. And of course, each of those provinces consist of cities. So the individual units of provinces, there's just simply more individual units. There's more provinces than Europa Universalis. So even though the map is the map is a limited part of the world. Obviously, North America is not going to appear in this game. And obviously only a small bit of Africa. But the actual, the coverage that you see inside of the game here is quite substantial. So yeah, you're not wrong to think that it's huge. It's deceptive if you think of it as saying, oh, okay, so it's a bit like Crusader Kings in that you've only got part of the map. It's well, yes, but compare the size of the map to Crusader Kings. I mean, even if you take a look at, if you play the Byzantine Empire, which obviously we're very far away from, there's just simply so much to go running around with. So, anyways, let's take a quick minute here and see who's up next. So it looks like it's the Mercantile faction. It's been a while since we've had a really effective civic candidate, and it'll probably be a while before they become... I'm actually tempted to put Proclus Postumius. It's a Curii family. Yeah, I think we can actually afford to, they'll be unhappy with me, so let's, their loyalty is currently 100. I'm actually mildly curious what happens when I do this. Sorry, I should get that name once more. Quintus Curii Donatus. Okay, so we'll put, Proclus Postumius. So he lost 20 loyalty due to getting fired, but I can live with that because I do actually want the Civic faction to be a little bit stronger than they are right now. So anyways, I'm not going to be able to get this is just a simple way of saying I'm not going to be able to get the discount. So I think what I'm going to do here, I know this is not going to be the most exciting choice that I can make. In fact, in the case of Rome in particular, like I've just got so much that I could be doing with this region right now. And it would make a lot of sense for me to be upgrading this. But what I want to do right now is I do want to make sure that each of my provinces sort of moving out, as long as they've got, they're in the tens position as far as income is concerned, I want to make sure that they've got marketplaces, because that's going to be improving my civilization. Following that, I'm going to start considering putting some training camps in places where I have lots of freemen. And that's actually, you know what, it probably won't hurt for me to talk a little bit about why I'm doing these things. So if we take a look at citizens, citizens produce research points and commerce. Freemen produce manpower. Tribesmen will probably be closer north, so they'll produce a little bit of tax and a little bit of manpower, and slaves produce income. So in the case of marketplaces, marketplaces will give 5% bonuses to tax and commerce, so this means if I have a lot of citizens and a lot of slaves, I want to put something in there. If I have lots of freemen, I want to build a training camp because it will improve local manpower by 10%. Fortresses I'm going to want to consider based on geography. So right now, one problem with my current setup is that if somebody wants to sort of move in from the north like this, essentially they get free reign over all of this territory. So I could, you know, if I want to be particularly safe, I could, you know, I could put the fortress at, you know, at Luna. Or I could, you know, just simply conquer this area and, you know, and claim it for my own. If I wind up incorporating these folks, then we'll have sort of this in my zone of control. But essentially, the way we're at the way things are right now, essentially, this is a bit of a weakness in terms of my defensive structures. And it's a lot of plains, so it's not that great for defense. If I can, obviously the way we got past it last time was to put our units on Saturnia, but it would be nice if I considered a little bit in terms of what sorts of paths my enemies might take to try and take my my regions. But we'll think about that a little bit later. So what I'm probably going to wind up doing again, I'm going to start with the plan of making sure that I've got marketplaces in the cities that that are generating enough income to justify it. In an ideal playthrough, I'd actually be thinking about the specific base levels. So I'd probably want to put a lot more marketplaces in something like Capua and Rome, because they're just generating that much more, and a percent-based bonus is always going to be better for the regions that are you know, that are producing larger values. But the thing is, I do also want to be spreading that civilization value. So this is a great example of one where I'd normally want to build on. It's generating 0.7 in terms of income, although of course the actual amount that I care about is the 69 from the base levels. But of course, there's not enough population here. There's only 2, and I'd rather not destroy the training camp because we do have 7 freemen. Right, where were we? Neapolis. Okay. Similar story here. There's just there's a bunch of stuff already built. Okay, well that was easy. Let's take a quick look at Etruria. We should be where we need to be with them, to be honest. One thing I might consider doing is building granaries in regions which don't have enough income to sort of justify an upgrade. In this case, the biggest reason for it stems from the fact that we've got lots of freemen, no real citizens or slaves. Actually, I think I'll maybe leave the granaries for another run. Okay, they've got a marketplace. They have no reason to be building a marketplace right now, but looks like we did decide to build a training camp. Nepete. Alright. Narnia, we're okay. We've probably already done this trick. So, I know this isn't always the most stimulating content, but it is, it's a way I'm going to make sure that I keep the Empire in cash. And one of the reasons why I'm going sort of from Rome out is just to kind of... one, it's just an ordered way of me to do that. But it also gives me the... you know, I kind of have this civilization value that's slowly expanding out from Rome. So it sort of seems to be a logical move. Let's just make sure... I want to make sure I don't go too high in my... I don't want to go too far into the treasury. I'm probably going to keep, you know, let's say 200 for mercenaries. In reality, I'm going to be generating a lot of money. So I'm not too concerned. This is actually a really wealthy province. I'm not particularly worried about you know, needing the mercenaries right away. But this is the point about having those reserves. Like you never really know what's going to be coming your way. So just leaving myself the option of not eating into my manpower at a time when I don't want to be doing that is I'm essentially buying myself the peace of mind. Now, I have a bit of a difficult decision to make right now because I could probably just finish out the upgrades for the remaining sort of northern parts of the Empire and then move south. You know what? I think I'm going to do that. We don't really have enough in this region. This might wind up being a really quick run. Yeah, and we don't own these. Sorry, I know this is a little dull. And again, this is I need to be kind of clear too. This is not necessarily me trying to, like, this is just me doing a bit of a shorthand in terms of how to do the upgrades. I'm sure there's probably a better way for me to sit down and think, you know, what do my regions really need? You know, maybe I want to be spending the time putting the points into, you know, putting the points into regions where I think there's going to be meaningful growth. Maybe I want to take the time to, you know, to find these places which have got like 50 sort of natural income that are presently not supported by any kind of infrastructure. But because I don't have a really great way of finding that yet, I prefer this idea of you know, just finding a more or less, you know, a systematic way of going through each of these cities, admitting that maybe I don't know everything, but this is at least going to be a way that I can sort of track growth on its own. Alright, now I have a decision to make. I can empty the treasury and hope that nothing too nasty comes to get me, or I can... Now, you know what? I am going to throw caution into the wind here. But, to compensate. So part of that's just because we're generating a lot of income on our own. And you can see, right, this is all the infrastructure that I'm building. All of that will translate into a higher ticking treasury. But what I'm going to do in return for that investment, I'm going to make sure that my army maintenance and my fleet maintenance go down. We will reallocate some. Actually, you know what? I think I am going to split these navies up, so let's see what we can do with... I'm pretty sure the posture of my family is going to be pretty happy. Actually, see, normally I would want to do this, but I'm not going to because I think I'm actually going to want to keep these characters for other purposes. So we'll make sure. I'm actually reasonably happy with these guys sitting in Carthage for a bit. Bring these guys into Ostia. So the only thing I'd really like differently is an army ready to defend from Macedonia if it comes to it. The real question is if I want to keep them on the island themselves or if I just want to keep them in Italy in case something happens. I also forgot to do the treasury, so my bad. Alright, so the thing to remember here is that this is the capital province, so I want to also focus on the surpluses in the capital that I might get. Who's the next ward? So you wish you had this name first. I'm of two minds about this. I did say I was going to talk about that. So one thing I want to keep in mind is the culture map mode. So it's to my advantage to focus on Latin culture groups, because that means that I'll have fewer of the headaches that I ran into with the Source of the Rebellion. That would imply sort of a move up here and a move into these regions. So these guys are a really prime target. I'm probably going to take these guys out first just because they have this really annoying fort. But like these two seem like a perfect option. And in fact, probably the best strategy here would be to start a war with these guys first, because they're currently guaranteeing these guys. So when I take these guys out, then we head south and we incorporate them, and we get a group which is already in our culture group, making it a little bit easier to integrate. Then there's the alternative of the fact that Macedonia is not very strong right now. Now, of course, chances are they're going to be recovering their manpower just like we are, so it may not necessarily be the case that it stays this way. But we do not need to pay for claims, whereas I believe we would need to pay for claims for these guys. Yes, we would. So it may be to my advantage to spend this oratory power to to convert some of my existing pops rather than to get casus belli on regions that aren't necessarily going to be as easy to take. And of course, Macedon, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, but Macedon has some really nice choke points that I can keep my legions in, so being able to take that out would be sort of nice. The only thing that really makes me a little cautious on that is the fact that once I sort of take Macedon, I open myself to a few potential sources of invasion. But I mean, that just gives me an excuse to build more legions, right? I mean, at the moment, if I'm making about 40 income a month, that's definitely an argument for me to build up some more legions when the time comes. Obviously not with my manpower right now. So most likely candidates would be to sort of unite the rest of the Latin culture under my banner, or to take advantage of my existing CBs. While I'm also talking about culture, there's something I've been meaning to do for a while. I'm going to assimilate some pops, and I'm actually going to start in Corsica. That's because I want to see how the colonize button works. Oh. Looks like I wasted all of those points. This is still not the dominant culture. Oh, but these will. Okay, so we'll send a freeman out to colonize. In need of assistance, the representative of the civic faction, Pontus Julius Libo, has taken it upon himself to call in a favor. It would cause some embarrassment if we were to decline this request. So it will reduce the value by 1. The civic faction is promoted. Hey, that's... so this is good news. I definitely am going to want to give favors to certain factions in the future then. So, yep, we will grant them the favor. The only disloyal province is already working on its way up, so I'm reasonably happy with that. We should be getting a civic improvement before too long. I probably had to spend points for... Envoy from the Levantine city-state of Thapsus is requesting to import grain. Okay. Also, I don't think I actually did the trade. I'm an idiot. So, because it's the capital, I do want to focus on getting those surplus in the capital. So, our options right now: vegetables will let me move slaves. I haven't really been moving slaves though. Base metals will improve the light infantry offense. I don't really rely on light infantry. Now, I probably should have considered importing the stone in the capital at the start, because I would have got a 10% bonus on that, probably 3,000. So that was basically another three. That was another 3 marketplaces I could have built if I was importing stone. So much for my planning. Olives, we already have the surplus in the capital. Now we would still get the bonus for a surplus in the province, but in this case here, there's no benefit nationally for me doing this again. We could further lower our costs by taking the surplus in the capital. Right now, those costs are 1317. So really, we're looking for about half a gold for that. That's not necessarily the best. Now, national citizen output will help me with my research as well as my income. So dyes are a pretty big priority. Freeman promotion cost I haven't really been taking advantage of. Freeman happiness I might like, because that'll help me with my recruitment. National manpower, again, really good argument in a time when I'm building up my manpower. But I am actually probably most interested at the moment on importing those dyes, because again, it will give me money, it will give me research, and it's why we conquered Carthage. It's not actually why we conquered Carthage, but it's a really nice side bonus. So I don't think that message will go away, but it'll at least help us improve our research output. Let's think of what else we might be able to do while we wait. I am a little curious how the AI is going to handle the loss of this this fort. I also somewhat question my choice to move this unit up. I mean, originally it was because the AI had barbarians running around the region, but that's no longer the case. Obviously, I'm already sitting on enough. We bring sad news. Quintus Marcia Philippus died of a heart attack at age 71. He is governor of Magna Graecia and a brother of the general of the First Legion. He is the head of the Marcia family. All right. So, again, I want an idea of what families currently consider themselves scorned. So the Claudii, Decii, Fabii, actually, Octavius Fabius Licinus. He's the foolish one, so in this case we will assign him the Tribunus Militum. Again, we suffered a bit of a hit to somebody's loyalty for replacing them like that, but Alright, now the Dekai family is probably my best bet. Yeah. Or the Curii. Nope. I mean, he's a capable governor and he's a member of a family that I want. Now, it's well, no, hang on. Greedy, effective governor, local population growth goes up. I can live with that. Alright, look at all those beautiful marketplaces. So we are now at, well, it says 3786. I'm curious what it'll look like when that rolls over. $47.65. A trade route has disappeared. Camillus Fulvius Curvus. We are no longer importing wine from the province of Latium. Now, I can actually make it so that we increase the trade routes in these regions, but I believe that also takes oratory. I think we can go... Oh, we can get an invention. Let's take a... I'm not going to pause the game while I make the decision here. We should probably be focusing on infrastructure if I can. I think in this particular case, we're actually going to go for another logistics bureau to improve the trade routes to the capital. Our burgeoning state is beginning to struggle under its own weight. A dedicated logistics administration must be instituted to handle the flow of traders and merchants into our capital. And oratory advances have moved up, so the country's civilization levels up, +2. Now, what this will get me... It will get me nothing. Apparently, nobody wants to trade with me. Ah, we don't have the 25 civic power. I did not know that you needed to pay for imports, so that's good news there. As you can see, our manpower is starting to recover, so that's desirable. I am definitely not losing that surplus, but I'll always take new income. So now I want to think a little bit about where my legions are located. One in Carthage, one in Rome, which is sort of the Corsica, Sardinia response crew. See, the lighter unit is this one. I could actually put them in Oricum. Manius Curii Donatus has been becoming increasingly restless of late. He believes that his stature is deserving of a key role in our government. He has approached our Senate, insisting that we bestow such a role upon him. Indeed, given his prominence, perhaps we should consider it carefully. So he's the head of the Curii family. He's also a... he's got a fairly high civic value, so he could be useful at some things. The one drawback is his loyalty is non-existent. Can make him Tribune of Plebs, and that will improve happiness, which I rather want, so... I'm sure this will make the Cornelii family pretty angry, but we've also got a new... Pontifex Maximus will change the sacrifice to the gods cost, so let's put... Elections are coming up. Who is up next? Okay, looks like the Mercantiles have got a pretty clear hand. I'm sure I made some people upset by doing that, but I'm reasonably okay with the choice. Now the Cornelii family. I want to see if I can get rid of him. Just because he's a little low on his ability. Oh! Oh my god, we've got so many... Hello, Praetor Marshal! I'm going to guess that you're probably pretty excited about Imperator coming out. This is a little bit of an idle playthrough because of the I'm in a recovery mode right now where I'm moving up my manpower. Right now I'm just trying to find the best ways for me to use the growing treasury. Manius Curii Donantis is settling into his new role well. While he is of the belief that he was the only befitting man of his stature, he has decided to show his gratitude by offering a small donation to the state of 470.49. All right, well that's a nice little bit of money to play with. We bring sad news. Lucius Julius Libo has expired from leprosy at the age of 62. He is the praetor and a member of the Julii family. And then Camillus Fulvius Patinus. He's not that great in terms of stats. It is nice that he's decent at oratory, so we're going to be able to do some more of those conversions, but the religion and civic power is pretty low. Of course, the big bonuses are that we've got commerce income and a diplomatic reputation, so we may be able to vassalize some people diplomatically. But what I wanted to do right now was I'm going to be sort of reshuffling the cabinet a bit. Obviously, that's not exactly the correct term, but what I want to see is if I can anger the Cornelii family a little bit without consequence. And indeed, they are earning 3 income. So while this guy will be a little unhappy that I tossed him out as the Prefectus Militaris, it is going to increase my wealth. Or will it? Lucius Julius Libo really only has 1 point better. Well, 1%, still 1%. And they're both, they're actually both members of the same faction, so we're not going to see too much of a disruption in terms of the distribution of the roles. Who else did we hear? You've been watching the streams for the last couple of days, saw you in your recommended channel, so you came by the looks of it. I threw you a follow. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see the follow sign, so thank you very much for that. And Commander Bond, hello from Brazil. We have a few Brazilians who like watching the stream, so thank you for stopping by, Commandant Bond. Let me just take a quick second here and make sure that my Streamlabs dashboard is coming up, because I do like thanking people for coming in. And okay, Nightbot, I want back. Looks like Virolock also followed, so apologies for not acknowledging you earlier. If you're still around, thank you very much. If you're not around, hopefully you get to hear that. All right, so similar idea here. I'm taking the opportunity to fill in some roles. So I rather like the censor where he is because it's increasing the strength of the civic faction. It's going to be a little hair-raising between the civics and the populists. So it is Quintus Marcia Philippus. If I'm particularly worried about him closer to the election, I might be able to smear their reputation. But for the moment, we will allow for the outcome that the civic faction goes in. That would be ideal because we're gonna have a nice fat treasury in time. But first, let's appoint a praetor. So Gnaeus Decius. And he's silver-tongued. So we've got the Curii family or the Decii family. Let's take a quick look. So Decii are happy. Curii should be happy. I think we gave them a bunch of jobs earlier. Yep, so can I appoint a better censor for the civics? Not really. Okay, so I will just in this case it'll be a merit-based choice for praetor. I think I'm actually going to assign a member of the religious faction, and that's just because the religious factions seem to be a little bit more tilted towards... oh, actually, I just wanted to double check the Cornelii family because I might want to reappoint someone instead. Cornelia, okay, so we'll do this in the right order. So, Lucius Julius Libo is the new Prefectus Militaris. And I think here we will assign Quintus Curiae Donatus as the new praetor, and that's just because the religious faction, they tend to be they seem to be a little bit more favorable towards declaring war. So I'm not quite sure why. Actually, looks like the Senate just generally disapproves. Religious faction. Fair enough. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't factor in as much as I thought. We're not actually going to do it one way or the other. Gnaeus Decius it is. One of the reasons for this, by the way, is the fact that he's 60, so I can replace him fairly early. But this is just to deal with the last little bit of aggressive. Sorry, it's just to get a bit of an edge on the aggressive expansion. So, CKY2 Kendall, how you doing? I'm sorry we didn't do Stellaris on Monday. Obviously, this is a new. Oh, how many hours have I sunk into Imperator? I'm probably in my 30th hour now. We did a lot over the weekend, so having a very good time of it. And CKY2 Kendall, I believe you are the one who is probably the biggest Stellaris fan in here. I hope you are. If I'm being insincere, I'm never gonna forgive myself. But obviously, we've had the opportunity to do. Well, he didn't last long. We've had the chance to do Imperator, so I wanted to pick that up if I could. So what I think I'm actually going to do is I might change. I might make Drusus Claudius the new Tribune of Plebs, and Quintus Cornelius will be. That's just so that my Freeman happiness can go up, seeing as I do want to get more manpower. Yeah, no, it's definitely still a Paradox Monday game, and what I need to figure out is the best way for me to finish my Stellaris playthrough on my own time. By the way, so I'm actually going to let this income tick up. There's going to be two reasons for that. Number one, I should have the civic value available now to import stone, so we'll bring that in from... We'll do this internally to... Oh, hang on. We don't have the surplus in the capital region. Shame on me. So I'm going to need yet another trade route. I'm still going to do it. I know there's a way to build trade routes, I just don't remember what the button is. At least I thought there was. Okay, so slave happiness, army maintenance costs. This is more about slave output. Population growth, citizen happiness. Army maintenance is meaningful, but let's cancel this one. This is just because we're on the infrastructure side, so I'm glad to hear. I'm glad to hear that. But again, it's I'm definitely going to be very happy to do more of the Megacorps playthrough. So this is again more what we're really doing right now is getting our ducks in a row for the assumed ascension of the the Civic faction. The Civic faction will give us, so we're already getting a minus 10% because we're now importing 2 units of stone to the capital. Normally you just need to import 1 if you're already building it in the region, but you'll notice we don't actually have stone in the capital region, so I needed to bring that in. Is this a new game? Yeah, this is going to be the next game from Paradox. It will be coming out tomorrow morning if you are in my region. And if you are in Sweden, or actually, yeah, no, early tomorrow morning, and I think it's like the afternoon if you're in Sweden. I need to work out the exact time. I know the Paradox Twitter said the exact times these things would be made available. Anyway, so each of the different factions will give you different bonuses. At the moment, I'm gaining improvements to the commerce income as well as the diplomatic reputation. This is why I'm actually making a little bit more than I normally would. Of course, I'm going to get a 25% bonus to the national tax when the... I do not want to lose that bonus. I am okay bringing in that money, though. So essentially, we'll actually wind up with more money in the treasury when we lose the mercantile faction, and this is because the civic faction will be bringing in 25% in terms of taxes. I am rather curious if we're going to be able to convince these people of our worth. So improved relations are going up. Yeah, I actually think we might wind up being able to incorporate them. What about these guys? We're not really... So if we do improve opinion, this will take it up to plus 65. What I would need to... I could also offer them a guarantee. To make them a tribal vassal, I would need to... Okay. At least 1 more positive than negative. Now, I suppose the big drawback here is that there's no guarantee that the opinion is going to be sufficient to get me that extra 65. But it's a worthwhile endeavor. So let's try and do the improve the opinion. After that, we can also bribe them, and hopefully by then I'll have also gained enough support in the Senate to be able to push through the policy. I'm just a little shy on popularity at the moment, so. Oh yeah, no worries, Praetor. It's nice to have an active chat. So even if it winds up being repetition, it's good. It's good to get that information out here. I love doing stuff early for Paradox, but obviously, like the point is to get the word out. Like, Paradox is a cool company and all, but I'm assuming they did not just give me this key out of the goodness of their hearts. So it's, I think it's good if people get the word out. As I'm fond of saying, like, this stuff, these games are always better if you have more people playing them, because the modding tools inside here are probably, like, out of all of the Paradox games I've seen, except maybe Stellaris, like Stellaris and Imperator I kind of feel are going to be competing with each other. I think this is probably the most straightforward as far as modding is concerned, and I think that's a really exciting development. I do have a Discord server. I'll warn you, Praetor Marshal, it's not very active, and I'm partly responsible for that. But I will happily make a new invite link. Just give me a quick second here. And if any of you would like to make it a little bit more of an active hey, give me my code, damn it. If any of you would like to make it a more active place, I do check it regularly. I just don't always have a lot to say, so do feel free to be active participants inside of it. This is Stellaris Killer? I don't think it's a Stellaris Killer, but I think one of the big things here is that because there's so much modding material, there's so much you can do with modding inside of this. I just think it's going to invite people who have had... you know, those types of people who say, oh, I've got a good idea for a game, but they don't feel comfortable enough to be able to realize it. I feel that Paradox is getting better and better at giving those kinds of people the tools to finally realize some of these ideas that they have in their head. And that's a very exciting prospect for me as a player, because it basically just means that the individual game I have becomes all the more valuable. The battle-hardened soldiers serving under Pontius Julius Libo have performed mighty acts of valor. Pontius, in an act of benevolence, has requested permission to institute a particular form of service reward unique to his army. Pontius would take great offense at being denied this honor, but we might wish to be careful of allowing him too much autonomy. Alright, so it is a little bit of a worry that this guy's going to... He's already got a pretty loyal legion, and his loyalty could be better, to be perfectly frank. But he's also rather like... I think he is also... I mean, he's going to be the consul next, so... Against my better judgment, let the soldiers have their due. And omen time. Okay, let's take a quick minute to figure out where we're going, so... Great, thank you, Praetor Marshall. We'll turn it into a more active place sooner rather than later, I hope. So, I'm unlikely. Just a quick, a lot of this is going to be repeat, because I think one of the things that's nice about this is for those of you know, whether you were here at the very beginning when we were learning this game, or whether you know, you're coming in and watching me play this for the first time, this is going to be a nice little reinforcement of all of the things that we've learned. You know, we're going to be back to this period that we had early on where we were trying to learn some of the mechanics and build up our our base a little bit. And right now I'm going to start thinking about my omen in terms of basically opportunity cost. So the easiest, basically the way that I can, you know, when you sit down and you play a game for the first time, actually I'm just thinking, yeah, religious unity affects omen powers, so I'm actually going to want to start spending these religion points to get this unity up now that I think of it. So first time you sit down and play a game, you're going to be like, well, you know, I don't really know what any of these buttons do. Like, how am I supposed to make a decision? And I tend to think opportunity cost is the best way to think about this. So, for instance, the first thing that you can do, you can go for the Blessing of Mercury or the Blessing of Pluto. So how do you decide between that? Well, we get 45.91 from taxes and 54.67 from commerce at the moment. Now this is partly, I mean, one of the things is that the omen duration, I don't think it'll tell, I think I actually have to bring up the omen. This is partly because it's got a little disjointed from when we normally do, usually the omens like start right at the beginning of the consulship, and we extended a particular omen, so it's now a little disjointed. So right off the bat, you can knock off one of the omens, because in the end you're going to be paying the base cost, in this case 198. So if you're going to be spending it, you get one omen at a time. If you're going to go for something that's giving you a percent bonus to one of your sources of income, it's both 22.7, so in this case it would make sense to take the Blessing of Mercury rather than the Blessing of Pluto, and this is just because I would be getting more money out of it. Now the real question is this exactly where I want to be gaining the money? The best argument for the Blessing of Mercury right now is that this is going to be the thing that determines how much money the Civic faction will have to build up the infrastructure inside of Rome. That's a pretty decent argument. Oh, you know stuff, a mod for a guy named Mordred Viking, if you've heard about him. We like to spread the goodwill in the PDX community and all. And too bad you do not see your channel before we ended our stream. He would have come in with a raid. No problem at all. I see the name. I think he's doing a Viking playthrough. I mean, that's probably really stupid of me to say, seeing as his name is Mordred Viking. But no, I believe, like, I think it's like Longbeard in the title this time or something like that, right? It's funny because, like, I see these names cropping up, but I'm always streaming myself, so I never get a chance to actually watch anybody. I really wish I could delete like the last 15 seconds where I'm like, oh, Mordred Viking, the guy who's doing the Viking playthrough, right? I'm really an unforgivable idiot sometimes. Anyways, Lango Beards. Okay, cool. Again, this is going into way too much detail about the omens, but one of the things is this is ultimately how we learned the game from the very beginning. We said, it's like, okay, we need to make a decision. What's a yardstick that I can measure it against? I don't even necessarily have to know all of the options. I'm just going to eliminate the ones that are obviously inferior. So, we understand money. We say, okay, we're making more in trade than we are in taxes. Why would I want my national commerce income to go up? Well, essentially because I know the civic faction will be coming in a few years, and if I can have a very large treasury for them to build the infrastructure, ultimately we're going to be even further ahead. And if we're getting a 20% bonus towards that, we're looking at something along the lines of like another 10 a month. So if a consulship is 4 years, that's, that is several marketplaces we'll be building as a result of that. So there's a fairly decent argument for the Blessing of Mercury. And we'll cross off Blessing of Pluto. So now we only have 7 omens to consider. What are some of the next things we'll want to consider? Well, Blessing of Jupiter, which we were using before. It decreases aggressive expansion. Well, as it is, we've already put a bunch of infrastructure in to lower aggressive expansion. And of course, part of that is using Blessing of Jupiter, but at the moment we also have our appeasing stance, and we've got equal integration. So in this particular case here, there's less of an argument for Blessing of Jupiter because we know that it's not going to be in effect. Well, it'll be in effect for the full duration, but we're not necessarily going to see the benefit from that for the full duration. So we can now cross off Blessing of Pluto and Blessing of Jupiter. We've said that this is going to be a period where I'm regaining my manpower. Now, maybe I want to have a couple of border tussles, because, 25k manpower, we should be able to take on a somewhat weak opponent, but it'll be even better if I have a very large base of manpower to work from. So maybe we want to say, well, the Blessing of Mars isn't as important, because the discipline isn't going to quite have the effect that if we're trying to avoid conflict, the discipline probably isn't going to be as important. So essentially, we're left with the Blessing of Apollo, Blessing of Mercury, Blessing of Minerva, Fortuna, and Ceres. So, Blessing of Fortuna. Well, we did just crush a rebellion. And notice all this green on the, on the unrest? Well, we don't really need to worry about unrest as well. So, now we're saying we're worrying about Ceres, Minerva, Mercury, or Apollo. Now, Apollo is a pretty good argument for it because that's going to be increasing our manpower. And I believe if you do have a higher base manpower, it does actually give you a higher monthly amount. So the real question is do I want to get that small fraction of manpower each month? Is that a number one priority? Or is there something... Essentially, I want to say, what do I want the next 5 years to be focused on? I'm gaining 1,000 manpower a month. So that's already going to give me a fairly decent base to work from. Essentially, we're going to get about 12,000 a month. Let's assume that I lose some to attrition or unexpected events. And of course, we're also going to be able to hire mercenaries if we feel particularly set upon. So the question is that marginal improvement in terms of manpower, is that really going to be giving me an edge that, say, research points or... research points income or population growth won't? I have been kind of ignoring my population growth, and I have a feeling that would probably help me quite a bit. But of course, I've also not been building granaries. There's actually a more stable way of improving population growth that doesn't just take 5 months. And in fact, if I build those granaries, that's going to sort of double up the benefits that Ceres grants me. Now, that's not a great argument because, of course, in the end, you're going to want to have that mix of labor and capital to improve your overall economic base. So really what I should be doing is I should actually be getting the hands to work the fields, and I should also be investing in that already. And these things should be self-reinforcing. But at the moment, I'm going to say I don't really think that a 0.22 improvement to my national population growth is the biggest advantage that I can be going for right now. Realistically, I'm either going to want to invest in my technology or invest in my commerce. And ultimately, What I'm going to wind up going for is the commerce income, for the very reason that I think this is such a good opportunity for me to be able to do some serious improvements when the Civic faction comes in. I may not have done this if I knew the Civic faction wasn't coming in, but we did spend some Civic power to import the stone. We're going to have a 25% bonus to our tax income. We're going to get a further 10% reduction to our build costs once the Civic faction is inside. And so there's a huge opportunity here to just make the most of that money in the treasury. And so in this particular case here, I am going to basically go for the money. If we didn't have a Civic faction coming in next, I might have seriously considered the Blessing of Minerva, because in the end, that's going to give me access to further technologies that will improve my ability to, to build all these other things. So the Messenger of the Gods will open up trade in all kinds of nations to our goods and merchants, ensuring that commerce will flow freely in our favor. With our traders aided by the trickster himself, our people are sure to prosper from this wealth. The Messenger of the Gods is known as the trickster and prankster, even from a young age, trying to trick his older brother Apollo. He is the patron god of travelers, thieves, and trade, as well as the psychopomp of the Hellenic world, guiding the souls of the dead to the underworld and the afterlife. And sorry guys, I was babbling too much. There were some folks chatting in chat, and I wasn't paying attention. So, where were we? Send me to the Cali. If we have men, we should sacrifice the men. Such a patrician thing to say. How you doing, Lazy Bear? Great to see you too. And Toshiro Aki, how's Rome is going? I haven't actually started building roads yet. Those roads might be from those roads might actually be from the base game on its own. But you're right. I am going to start building some roads when I can, and we will get the. It is 5 years that we get the benefit for. Now, we get 4 a month. I'm just going to take a quick minute here to do a quick little bit of math. So, that's a shame. So normally I'd like to spend these religious points to convert and improve our omen power. Because this guy is only generating for a month, we're really only going to get enough for the next omen. So I'll still do the conversions, but we will be a little careful. Really, I can only afford 2. There you have it. Oh yes, no, I was sort of warned about how the roads work. We might as well actually. I mean, there's really no getting around it. So let's think a little bit about where I want to put my roads. It probably makes sense to have the roads go to Rome. I also think it probably makes some sense for me to take them. I think I'm going to start by moving them up to this northern region here, just because it's a little hard to get to. And I like the idea of being able to move a legion away from this northern area. So, start in Rome. It's partly just going to be an opportunity for me to see how all this works. Okay, so Rome pays 9 military. A road will be created from this location when the unit reaches its next location. This unit gains army movement without roads, minus 90% until done with the action. The ability to lay down high-quality roads while on campaign can greatly increase the efficiency of any offensive operation, and was a particular hallmark of the Roman legions. So what I would normally like to be able to do is just, like, hit one of these. Okay, so it looks like they are gonna... I'm assuming that they're only going to build it in the one region, though, so... Emporia will have its wine. And Dalmatia will have its fish. So I'm going to move this unit onto Macedon. I think it might make sense then that these guys... put them in Lilibellum. Okay, yeah, so they're not gonna automatically do it. So the way I'm gonna build them right now, Toshiro, I'm actually focused a little bit what I'm preparing for right now. So the big thing is that I want to get a very basic infrastructure in place first. Oh yeah, so there is a road already in the game. So the basic infrastructure I want to work in. Actually, you know what? I should do it fort to fort. What I would like to do in terms of getting things into place, this is such a shame because I actually think it's better if I put them into the fort rather than the... So essentially what I want to do is I actually want to build my roads in such a way that I can move the units the way I did in that previous invasion. So my roads right now are going to be going to the north. So let's pretend that Gallic invasion that we had to deal with last time happened. Where I moved my units were up here. Now admittedly we didn't have this territory, so essentially I moved them here and I moved them here. So my focus at the moment is to build the road right in this nice little choke point here, because it's defensible. Admittedly, it doesn't have a fort. I might even make the road go all the way up to Ravenna. But the idea here is I'm trying to build something so that if we were in a situation where I didn't have the manpower, I want to be able to cover positions that worked well for me in the past. And what I'll be doing after I build that infrastructure, I'll be doing something a little bit closer to what you're recommending, which is to sort of set things up in a bit of a grander fashion. But what I'm actually going to be prioritizing for this first set of roads is essentially, we have a model of what an emergency looked like in the Empire before, and what I want to kind of do is make sure that I'm able to set up accordingly. Another thing too is that also affords me a little bit of oh, hello. They are fighting. Very courageous. Essentially, I'm just kind of setting myself up for the worst case scenario, and then sort of moving forward from there. And this is just partly because I also know that I find it very easy to forget stuff, and so I'm also trying to future-proof I'm trying to future-proof my road network from my tendency to forget. You have to go now. Enjoy the rest of your stream. I hope to see you around. You think I'll drop by more. Thank you so much, Praetor Marshall. And again, one thing I should do this more often. One of the best things that an audience can do for a streamer is to show up on raids and be really nice about it. Praetor Marshall, obviously we didn't get the raid from Mordred Viking, but it is worth saying, usually a very pleasant individual in a chat reflects a very pleasant streamer. A streamer tends to cultivate the audience that they tend to cultivate the audience they deserve, for lack of a better term. Although you guys are much nicer to me than I really should ever have claim to. So it is very nice to pay it forward. I obviously don't do Imperator all the time, and I'll be doing it a little bit less than I normally do. So please do check out Mordred Viking. I cannot speak from personal experience, but if Praetor Marshall is one of the opening scouts, let's say, I think it's a very good indication of somebody who will be a pleasant diversion when you're waiting for System Chalk to stop resting on his laurels. Anyways, moving right along. Research points is kind of tempting because I have been ignoring research for a while. Maintenance costs I don't really need. I mean, more money is always nice, but we're definitely already doubling down on that. Tribesman output, again, not... It's nice and it will help me with manpower, but I would prefer Freeman output. So in the current state of things, I think I need to start shoring up my. I think I need to start shoring up my my ability to research. More important than any school of mathematics is the study of how to behave and how to apply reason to any situation. Teaching our children this at an early age will usher in a new era of philosophy. I wish it said why it was going down. I am going to be streaming on Friday, but I'll very likely be taking a break from Imperator because we've been streaming it for almost certainly a week. But please do not feel any obligation. It's simply a nice thing to do, and part of the reasons why I like shouting out things like this is that if I'm not going to be streaming a game for a period of time, and again, it's not like I'm leaving Imperator forever or anything like that. But it is a nice little opportunity to to make sure that people are in good hands. So no mention required, although it is absolutely appreciated. So. Oh, that's nice of you to say, to share, Aki. I mean, I think part of this is just an admission on my part that any Paradox game that I've played, nobody's really watched me, and I know you've heard me say this like 101 times, so apologies for the repetition. I think I am gonna do what the AI says in terms of the shortest path, because ultimately it is going to be what my units wind up following, and then I think I'll just do offshoots to the fort. Yeah, the biggest thing is that my added value, like, nobody's going to watch me for the best strategies, and there are people who are really good at crunching the numbers and figuring out what's going on. Like, one thing I would have preferred to do is to sit down with the wiki and figure out, hey, how do I, how does discipline actually factor into combat ability? Is this something that I should be thinking about more often? I don't really do that, unfortunately. But I think the one thing that works for me, at least in terms of the playing games like this, is that I can be a moron and I can still get by with my style, because in the end, if I give a reason for what I'm doing, so for instance, my choice is on the roads. This is not necessarily the best way of handling it. It might be the best way of handling it for me because I tend to forget things and not pay close enough attention. But the biggest thing is that if somebody sees that fail, we're able to learn from that. Whereas if I just sort of sit in silence and click on a bunch of screens, or if I make obvious mistakes and I'm maybe not articulating, why I did it differently, or whether or not that's something, it could, like, I constantly second guess myself on things. So, sometimes if I see somebody do something that I consider to be tactically questionable, I sort of sit down and say, well, maybe I just don't understand the game as well as I thought I did. which is obviously a bit of a problem. So with all of that in mind, like, you know, I just tend to find this style of play as something that lets me leverage the fact that people find my voice inoffensive, and you know, I still get to enjoy the game, and it's a style of play that tends to attract enough people to make it worth playing. Again, I'm not going to pretend that I'm a larger streamer than I actually am. That is public record. Everybody kind of knows where I'm at on the pecking order, but it's something that's allowed me to find a little niche. So yeah, I also know that the pathing also tends to focus on like higher supply areas, it seems. In the midst of a fallow season, Secundus Junius Bulbacus, one of our most esteemed governors, held a vast and lavish party in his summer palace. Even his most loyal subordinates are shocked at this display of contempt for the plight of the common man, and have written directly to us demanding some manner of justice to be served. So he can demand a payment to the city, and he will lose loyalty, although I think he's fairly loyal as it is right now, and frankly, I'm mad at him, so he's not sufficiently loyal to the civic faction. We can demand his resignation. Now that's tempting, but I believe the Junii family is sort of marginal in terms of its... I mean, demanding the resignation would be really cool just because that would free me up, but my alternative would be to get Gaius Junius Bulbacus. And frankly, I'd rather not put the populist in play. I mean, I could just, you know, get rid of him altogether, but in this case, we'll make him mad. We'll make him go into debt. Hey, thank you, Toshiro. If PDX or Ultimate General is what he's playing on Friday, you're good. Oh, that's actually, I need to. So I think Ultimate General's originally by Total War Modder. Sorry, you said you're on your way out. I should save this for another time, but Ultimate General's actually something that I have, and it's something I've been meaning to play, but I'm kind of bad at it at the moment. I should watch, because I'd really like to learn that game. Ah, this is excellent. So they would like us to export iron. So originally I was worried that we would be losing our... I would be worried that we'd be losing our bonus, but in this particular case, we're gaining the heavy infantry discipline because we now have more than enough iron in the capital. The other thing that is great about this is that we are exporting to a region that eventually I want to try and put under my control. For instance, demand tribal vassal status. Ah, they are at war. Well, that's a shame, because they're clearly not going to be making any progress. Oh, don't do this to me, game. You let me pick them once before. So I'm gonna see if there's a sneaky way that I can declare war on these guys. Oh, here we go. Yeah, I don't want to do that. $200 for the claim. Yeah, the real dilemma here is that this war has been going on forever. Oh, random question. Favorite candy? I'm pretty partial to Skittles, actually. Hey, Ruthless Pigeons. Great to see you. Okay. 200 civic power is a lot to be spending to help these guys sort out their war. Also, yep, this is worth it. We'll hold games. Rome has held games. Rome pays 353.13. He loses 353.13 and gains 15 popularity. That'll change by 0.16, so I do actually need to do something with it. So we'll ask for military access to start with. You know what? Maybe the alliance option will help me. In the meantime, let's see what our companions with. That's right, they are at war. So one other thing I want to focus on. So if we were to demand tribal vassal status, so the fact that they have 111 opinion of me has only translated to 55. We have got... Well, they'll get up to about 111 as well. I might want to be a little... Well, now we'll offer the guarantee now. So guarantee will help. We might... The bribe may not be enough, but we'll see. And yeah, it turns out the military access was meaningless on this one. Because I wasn't thinking. Can Rome colonize? Yes. So we actually have got a colony starting here. I don't believe we have enough to carry on with the colony. Reason I'm not doing this one... Actually, you know what? I should reconsider that. So the real worry that I have... Oh, you know what? Yes, so I made a bit of a blunder. So if I want to colonize this region, I need to colonize it with Corsicans, and I turned all of my... No, hang on. This guy's a... Ah, there we go. So yeah, I need to mess around a little bit with the culture. Oh wait, no, that doesn't make sense, because it definitely gave me some limits in terms of like what I could colonize with. So dominant culture is not Roman. And I'm not clear if that's in this region or in the region that they're coming from, because this counts as Corsican, and they said the dominant... Yeah, you know what? It's actually probably related to the city that they're coming from, now that I think about it. But yeah, easy answer is you can colonize. We're currently doing it, and we're presently limited, in this case, because we don't have an adjacent city with at least 10 pops, and in this particular case, I believe it is because the majority of this population is not Roman. So we've got 1 Hellenic Roman and 6 Corsicans. Obviously, it'll take me a while with my diplomatic power to fix all of that. Oh, looks like I got out over my skis on this road. I do like the fact that roads are reasonably inexpensive, and this is a fairly nice... I'm sure it's incredibly tedious for all of you to watch this, but this is actually not a terrible way for me to spend the peace period in this particular playthrough. A tale of two cities. The very nature of autonomous city-states often leads to disagreements between the neighboring authorities. In this case, the scenic coastal city of Nora ended up in disagreement with their neighbor Sulki over a minor land dispute. We have been asked to arbitrate over the matter at hand, but it is clear that both settlements will harbor a grudge regardless of our decision. So let's take a look at what the income is. So, local taxes. So Nora is currently earning a base of 18 in terms of taxes, whereas Sulki is earning... Oh, that doesn't really seem to be... That doesn't seem to be a competition. In this case, we will say that Nora benefits more. So bonus 25% local taxes, but Sulki will have an increase to outrage. Let's take a quick look at how things are going with these guys. So they're still a little mad about the aggressive expansion. The different culture group is a factor. I mean, these guys would be reasonably easy to conquer. Let's see what's keeping me from... It's different culture versus different culture group. I think we'll leave it be for now. Yeah, so we can't offer them an alliance, which is a pity. So I think these guys have sort of locked themselves into this unwinnable war. They're forever going to be sieging this fort. Maintenance. I'm actually kind of spoiled for choice here. In this case, I think I'm going to go for paymasters. Placing the oversight of army pay in the hands of shrewd and incorruptible men, we might find that we have a surprising amount of gold. Well, see, I can peacefully integrate these guys. We don't actually have a CB on any of these. So this is, yeah, this is the real kick in the teeth on this one. Because it's gonna, I definitely do not want to pay the, I definitely do not want to pay the 2 stability to show superiority. So that leaves me with 198 to fabricate a claim on them. Ultimately fabricating a claim to give this territory back. Touched by Mercury, Vetulonia has seen a huge influx of traders and travelers from far and wide recently. One of our advisors jokingly suggests that we must have been blessed by Mercury himself. It may have been a joke, but paying our dues to the god might be a good idea nonetheless. It could be, only be a boost in long-term business, right? So, a fair amount of coin. It is a good national tax. This is the one that's always hard for me to figure out, because like my national tax is 4720, so that's really... Like, even if I just round it to 3, I'm gonna get that for 10 years. So... Well, let's work that out. So if I, again, it's a generous estimate, but let's say that we get 3 a month out of that. So 12 months in a year, so that's 36. So we're up by 30. Well, no, actually, in this case, I will do it, because one, I'm up to 25 religious power, which means that I can do a couple more conversions. But on top of that, I know I'm going to be hoarding all of this. I'm going to be hoarding all of this wealth so that I can build some more marketplaces. So even though I won't be able to build the same number of marketplaces at the start of that period, I'm still going to be ahead in the long run. And then, of course, more importantly, I've gained myself some religious power to convert some heathens. So we'll be starting with the citizens. Basically just going to work myself down to... I probably should be a little more careful about this. I'm particularly interested in stomping out the Canaanite religion where I can. Martial advances advance. Morale of armies, morale of navies are up, maintenance costs are up, and tradition costs are down. Good news for all. Okay, we'll leave that be for now. But again, that's an... Oh, Rome is starving. Guess I kind of have to spend that money then. Okay. Oh, Christ almighty. Alright, so it looks like the populists are on their way up. So we'll start by smearing the reputation. And let's... Okay, so I am a faction head, so in this case we're going to make friends, and I'm actually willing to do almost anything to... Yeah. I'm going to see if I can get friendship. A friendship between the mercantile faction and the civic faction. A few bribes and some thugs will solve this. I'll say this is beneath us because I don't want to get the tyranny for 5. Tyranny is still pretty sticky for us. Claudian troops mobilized. The head of the Claudian family, Hostus Claudius Casus, utterly fed up with the situation, has begun mobilizing local forces in the city of Lucaeus. Whilst matters are not hostile yet, this act could provoke civil war if left unattended. Cool. Dreadful. Where's the 4th Legion, though? Maybe he'll die before he becomes a problem. Our position offers many ways to publicly flatter Potius Julius Libo, careful praise of his deeds in the halls of government among the notaries of our country will be sure to find its way back to his ears. Alternatively, a lavish sacrifice in his honor can hardly go ignored. Then again, few can spurn the gift of a public statue in their honor, particularly a flattering one. So these all give me moderate. All of this is pretty precious right now. But in this case, I will spend the oratory. Okay. Civic factions gotten in. This has kind of hurt my ability to, I think it's a different a different character, but yeah, definitely definitely the smear campaign had an extra bit of spice. All right, so Potius Julius Libo was elected to office and will now rule a glorious nation. This guy's actually got some good stats as it is. So there's a couple things that I need to do to prepare. Number one, I'm going to adjust my economy to make sure that the army is now on normal maintenance. I believe the faction head has always been Quintus Marcia Philippus. I know that just because he has particularly good charisma, which has sort of been, it's really been the origin of my my angst for his faction. We're still gonna finish the road. I think probably the best I can really do at this point is sit and wait, because I rather foolishly did not record. I didn't record where his armies were, and I'm just trying to think. Oh, here it is. Ah, he's going to be in Macedonia. I'm mildly curious, if we reward the veterans, we can spend 482... So yeah, I wonder if I'll just be able to boot him from the command when the time comes. So there's a couple things that I'm going to do to get myself ready. The most sensible move now is to move the First Legion to into a position to defend Greece. Well, not actually Greece. Epirus is the province. I keep thinking Aelia Graecia, but you've been waiting for Cthulhu to come out of the Mediterranean? Gotta wait for the mod. I'm gonna say that about everything now. Okay. Arguably, I don't really need this legion in Carthage. I'm gonna keep it there, but... So what I'm gonna do here is I am gonna follow through on my plan to build up the infrastructure, but I'm gonna keep 200 or 300 in reserve. Just to make sure that that things are under control. I believe we've already built this out. We should have already built this out. It is kind of tempting to bring civilization to these. Yeah, you know what? Let's do it. Yep. I'm definitely... I mean, the one problem with my navies right now is that they have lower morale, but I don't think he's going to get 15 ships in his name. This game seems fun, though. You're considering buying it. I should start Paradox Games with this or Stellaris. So it's a really tough one for me to answer, Tall Man Alive. I mean, the nice thing is that as far as any moral dilemmas I face in terms of recommending the product, I've been given keys to both games by Paradox, so they cancel each other out in terms of favorites. My personal feeling has been this. So when people get into Crusader Kings, there's some advice that everybody gets, and it's actually not bad advice. It's to start as a small ruler in Ireland. and build up from there. And I think like Ireland has like the reputation for being Noob Island. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that advice. But I do have my own little adjustment that I would make to it, which is that so any Paradox game that you play is going to be it's going to ask a lot from you in terms of sort of the attention that you put in. It's going to be a little difficult to learn. I think Stellaris is probably the easiest to learn, but that doesn't mean that is the one that you want to start with. But essentially, the trade-off is this, is that you put the time into the game, and the game will reward you with hundreds of hours of entertainment. Like, there is a reason why when you look at the reviews for these games, they're from people who have got these just absolutely staggering play times inside of these games. So, you know, I'm going to bring these two threads together by saying that I think because it should be taken as a given that these are going to be games that you will put hundreds of hours in when you enjoy them, and you're going to put hundreds of hours in, maybe not hundreds of hours in to learn them, although I'm still learning things about Europa Universalis. Sorry, I just lost track of where I was. Okay, yeah, we are building marketplaces here. In my opinion, one of the better ways to sort of soften the blow of the learning curve is to pick a topic that interests you. So if you like the Age of Discovery and you know, you want to play like, so you know, there's lots of really wonderful things in there's lots of really wonderful things inside of Europa Universalis, and I almost see none of them because I always wind up playing Holland. I just really like playing Holland in that game. So essentially, if you're playing the game and it is a theme or a topic or a time period that you're interested in, I think that will push you through the hard times where the game just seems to be impossible to understand, and it's almost like it's deliberately trying to frustrate you. And that's one of the reasons why I am hesitant to make a harder recommendation about which one to start playing with, because they are all incredibly enjoyable games. Like, there is a reason why I make these things. Like, there's a reason why these games have a dedicated day on my stream. But with that in mind, like, there's always going to be that initial experience of trying to learn a game. And I think your more reliable guide is going to be your ability to sort of say, okay, which of the following subjects do I think I'm going to be able to tough out a difficult to understand, like, which of these subjects do I think I would be willing to sit through, like, a long and boring lecture about? You know, like, oh, does that have the income? No, that doesn't have the income to justify that. So, like, for me, I'm fascinated with the classical world. I really enjoy the topic of Rome. I mean, there's a reason why I've got all of these quotes from these ancient authors at the start of the... Yeah, definitely, Toshiro. But yeah, so, like, for me, like, this game is almost tailor-made to my interests. I'm not going to spend too much more time on this, but I want to try and say something a little bit more general for the benefit of other people who might have been thinking that question but didn't push forward with it. The advice that you will get about these games are great, and it'll usually be very varied, but in my own opinion, the thing, like, if you go far enough back in my video archives, you will see me learning Crusader Kings 2 for the first time on stream. It's very much like learning Imperator. And Crusader King is definitely a game that could be defined as hard to learn, easy to master. So part of what's kept me through the games that I found particularly challenging to learn has definitely been my interest in the subject matter. And Tall Man Alive says, kind of like Cult of Sim or Dark Souls. Yep, that's definitely. You'll go with Stellaris or maybe Crusader Kings if you can play the Seljuks. I believe you can. But yeah, I mean, like, Stellaris, Stellaris is probably the most new player friendly, but I would also argue that it's also probably the one that does not equip you that well to play a Paradox. Sorry, you wanted to see commerce. So we're at 5907. That might change because I changed my army maintenance. So we'll wait for the month to roll over, because it'll definitely not, it'll take less than it'll take more than a month to build those. $71.33. Oh, that's probably because of the new. That's probably because of the new boss. And which fleet do I want? I guess I need to take the fleet in Rome. One for the blockade, and then the other one will be to transport. But yeah, like the only drawback to Stellaris is I think it doesn't really equip you the way that Crusader Kings or Europa Universalis does to sort of understand the rest of to understand the other games. But they're all wonderful. Like, I love playing all of them. The one that I have the least playtime in is Hearts of Iron 4, and that's not even because I dislike it. It's just because I'm too busy playing all of the other games. So if you like space, if you want something that's a little bit friendlier to new players, Stellaris is definitely a good place to start. But if you're looking for a historical game, I suppose the only thing that I would really add is that Imperator is the newest of the series, and that comes with its benefits and its detriments. The benefit is that when you learn Imperator, as new DLC will be coming out, you will have new gameplay concepts coming in one at a time, and you will be learning as the game grows. When you go into Stellaris, Stellaris now has the benefit of a couple of years of development. All right, there's all the marketplaces. We're still at 70.05, and that should, I think that's changed slightly. 70.72? That definitely feels like a lot less than that number should be, but then again, I didn't necessarily build them in the highest income regions, so. That is very true, Tall Man Alive. And I know there's the Horizon signal in Stellaris, so. HOI 4 is your jam, you have all the deals. That's funny, like, Hearts of Iron 4 was the one that I found the most difficult to get into. I think the reason for that is that it is I think of all the Paradox games, Hearts of Iron 4 is probably the closest to a proper, like, war game, like the Hex sort of SPI style, old school types of war games. And I think just because I'm so used to playing some of these other concepts in the games, like, obviously you need only take a look at how I'm playing this game right now. Like, I very clearly get a lot out of the almost Minecraft style play in these ones, where I'm building up this, this state rather than just, rather than just sort of, constantly blobbing out. So I think probably it's because I haven't taken the time to sit down and really hash out, what do I want my divisions to look like? How should I be thinking in terms of these time horizons? And there's obviously a lot more that's built into that game to automate a lot of the behavior of the divisions. And I've traditionally been pretty resistant to that because I have micromanaging problems. Huh. I suppose the answer is I need to start moving some slaves out of the city. Oh yeah, Civilization. I mean, every time Civilization has come out, it's always meant an overnighter for me. I tremendously enjoy those games. I struggle between the religious echelons of our society and the peasants has recently come to light, as the populace at large feel like the religious ceremonies are inaccessible and distant. On the other hand, our augur and his attendants demand the distance needed to do their jobs properly, and argument the peasants have no rights to the inner workings of our religious ceremonies. So the priests will be left alone. National unrest goes up. Stability goes down. Omen power and omen duration are up. We still have an augur. Yeah. A religious proceeding through the city will appease both sides. So 25 religious power and the augur gains 2 loyalty. Or the peasants are right, it is time to open the gates of the temples. So 50 religious power, unrest goes down, omen, and... No, we'll do religious proceeding. Because I'm a wimp. Okay, let's get a new pontiff. I'm pretty sure this guy is the angry oh no, he's not the angry general. Well, the Fulvii family seems like they could do with a little love. I think it's because they used to be consul, so... I'm going to wait for the treasury to tick up a little bit. Oh yes, I said I was going to move some slaves, and actually that's also going to involve me learning how to do that. I'm a little curious about how some of that will wind up working. Because presumably there is some other way for me to get food to Rome. Granary gets me 12%. Well, the 2 granaries get me 12%. Trade also does that, but clearly I want to keep bringing the stone in. So for now, let's think a little bit about the goods that I want to generate surpluses for. Actually, the better thing for me to do would go to the trade routes. Do I really not have amber in my empire? Oh, I did not know that Pops made food. Thing is, I like the income from slaves. Anyway, so surplus is in the capital. I do tend to notice I get a lot of requests about cloth. So I might want to consider that. Yeah, let's not make this too complicated. Let's see... I don't even need to move him out of the province. So I think you get a surplus at like 15 slaves, if memory serves. Yeah. As soon as I saw the civic power, I'm like, you know what, it's going to hurt a little bit, but it's probably not a bad time to do that, although I lost track. We're at 11 now. I do wish it would tell me a little bit more about I wish it would tell me a little bit more about oh, hang on. Every 15 slave pops will produce an additional 1, so we'll send 4 more from Rome. Although apparently that may not be enough. Holy smokes. I mean, I can try and distribute the rest of the people as well. Okay, that's going to be something, I think that's going to be something I need to think about and read up on the wiki. I kind of think if I keep hammering away at this, nobody's really going to have a good time, so I'm a little curious if the rebellion starts. But come on, face me, you coward. Especially with your shock action. Bottleneck's still the best, but... Skirmish would be kind of cool, though. One thing that would be kind of nice is if they had... Oh, I'm also curious if these guys still want to... Aha! So my diplomatic opinion counts for quite a bit on this. Notice that I can't demand tribal status anymore. So I'm going to keep that in mind. I have a feeling that I could spend money to make that work. But I'm obviously reluctant to do so. So in this case, we're just going to build to the fort. These guys can also complete the road. I think the next northern road I'm going to take care of will be to move myself up to here, especially because that'll probably give me access to Saturnia. And then we'll start working on a southern route, particularly to the heel, and then also we'll work our way through down to Sicily. Again, there'll be other factors. I think the ideal situation for me will be to connect all of the forts, and then to Just trying to think of some other ones. You know, connect up ports, connect up all of the other sort of the major locations I'm gonna want to put men. So I'm a little quiet at the moment. I just need to get a quick bit of refreshment. And again, I mean, there's definitely the option of sort of paving the entire coast, but I don't know if I have the patience. I always want money. Siege engineers, starting experience, general loyalty. I mean, general loyalty is actually kind of tempting given what we're encountering at the moment. And looks like it's omen time, so... I think I'm going to do siege engineers just because that'll help me with my attrition in the long run. Coastal sieges were particularly harsh, as often enemy cities could resupply by sea. By establishing our own system of patrol and resupply, we cut off our foes' hope. Oh, sure. Let me get my omen out of the way, and I'll be on that right away. So... I would have originally gone for national population growth, but that might actually be... that might be betraying me as far as... It's got to be the Blessing of Minerva or the Blessing of Ceres at this point. I think I'm still going to go for the national population growth. Because I haven't really touched that yet, and I do still, like, again, this is still in expanding the infrastructure phase. But we'll ask She of the Grain to bless our harvest and ensure the food necessary for our people to grow and expand. As the goddess looks down upon us with favor, our harvests are sure to grow safely for many years to come, putting an end to devastation and bad harvests. As a patron goddess of agriculture, harvest, and fertility, she plays an important day-to-day role in Hellenic societies, cultures rising and falling with her favor. Several festivals are held in her honor across the Mediterranean world, often portraying the tragic loss of her daughter to the god of the underworld. In the city of Eleusis, there is a mystery cult dedicated in her honor, where some say that they go through the same experiences of loss and rebirth as the goddess once did, searching for her child. Yeah, that's kind of my logic, which is that I've put so much money into this infrastructure, and we're definitely at a point where a lot of these cities do have maximum value. So I don't want my panic over one region to I'm sorry, I'll show you the world in parts. So this should give you a bit of an idea of the West. I mean, Carthage has hung on reasonably well for the difficulties it suffered. But yeah, I don't want my panic of one region to turn me. And I mean, as it happens, it's actually dealt with the problem in the capital. Thrace is doing. I mean, Thrace is effectively what's keeping Macedon alive. It's definitely not Macedonia. That's. Seleucid Empire is certainly doing well for itself. Phrygia, sort of as everybody expected, is falling apart. Egypt, I don't know if it's grown that much, but it definitely has strength. Oh, this is an opportunity. It looks like Myura has actually regressed a little bit. Yeah, we're definitely taking off, so I'm going to want to put this manpower to use at some point, but... Am I a Game of Thrones fan? I have the books. I sadly have not read them yet. I did enjoy the TV show for a period of time. I actually know... No, sorry, know is probably the wrong term. I have worked with one of the directors of photography on it, Robert McLaughlin. I think the first episode he did was the Red Wedding one. So I find it... I do like it as a show, but I will admit I have not followed through on it at all. Like I have not seen I've not seen an episode in quite some time. I still like Littlefinger as a character. He's probably my favorite. Read the books before watching the show. Way easier to follow. Okay, good to know, Sean Bean. I mean, but Sean Bean isn't in the books. How could you say that? Sorry, somebody asked. You can move pops. Yes, you can. You can move pops, Ed Baver. I think I missed. I think I missed the word. That was what I was doing before. I don't think there's a mass move pops button. That would be kind of nice to have, but at the moment, I don't have it. And you were gonna say CK2 Game of Thrones mod stream would probably be super fun. If you aren't a gigantic fan, though, it would probably like it. Well, see, that's the thing. I do really like the show. I have seen the show and I like it. I just haven't kept up with it because I don't have HBO. And I moved from the city where I had friends who did have HBO. So it's not a disinterest on my part so much as the fact that it became more costly for me to see it, and I have other opportunities. By the way, if you want to know my favorite show on TV right now, Billions. Oh God, I like Billions a lot. Totally unrelated to Rome though. So like a couple of people have requested the Game of Thrones mod. The thing is that combat in the Game of Thrones mod is really different. You cannot afford to throw away manpower like you do in Crusader Kings on its own. I also rather foolishly tried to play as Littlefinger because I like that character so much in the Game of Thrones mod, and that is not an easy start. So yeah. Okay, that's good to know. I mean, I'll admit, I have had a very hard time. I read quite a bit, but I have not read fiction in a very long time, and I really want to get better at that. The thing is that there's just so much interesting nonfiction to read. So I started reading Livy in honor of Imperator coming out, and I'll be sure to drop some more Rome facts as we carry on. But yeah, I'm behind on my fiction, and Game of Thrones seems a great place to start. So Billions is loosely based on Preet Bharara, also a little bit on Elliot Spitzer, and the actor that plays Captain Winters in Band of Brother. I haven't seen Band of Brothers. Let me take a quick look at the cast. Damian Lewis? Yeah, he plays Bobby Axelrod. I used to know what hedge fund manager he was based off of. But yeah, I really dig Billions. It's good. The bitter civil war in Egypt has finally come to an end, with loyal forces of Olympiodoros Legid utterly crushing the rebel armies led by Antigonos Megid and his scheming cohorts. We are reliably informed that the turning point of the war was during the siege of Canopus, when the rebel forces attempted to rout the loyalist army, but were outmaneuvered by superb tactics of Olympiodoros Legid. The outcome of the war is largely irrelevant to us, as we do not consider Egypt a friend or an enemy. Nevertheless, we ought to be careful now that their attention is on track to recovery. Okay, I'm definitely interested. I mean, I like good television. It's fashionable to say it now, but I definitely I always thought TV could punch above its weight, and I really like the fact that for quite some time now, people have really been leaning into the fact that you can tell longer stories in it. Because this is the thing, like, I never had a very important job on a film set, except when it was like an indie thing that nobody had ever heard of, and at that point, like, who cares? By the way, there's an argument here that I shouldn't be building marketplaces on these small cities like this, that instead I should be building granaries, because it'll help the growth faster, but I'm committed, so. But yeah, the majority of work that I did was actually on television shows. So it's a format that I was a little more comfortable with. I still love, like, traditional movies, and if anything, I think the stuff that you'll see in theaters is too long right now. Although the stuff that I've seen in theaters most recently hasn't been that. I saw Into the Spider-Verse, which was very enjoyable. And I also saw Dunkirk, which I thought was really good. Although I really liked the report from one of the veterans that saw it. Apparently their review was that it was a very good movie, but it was louder than the actual battle. Yes. So I did want to keep 200. I did want to keep 200 oratory just in case I wanted to get a CB on someone. Also, looks like Macedon has got a little bit of trouble. This might be a good opportunity for me. Although we're not popular enough. See, I wasted the money on the games at a time when I really should have been focusing on attaining my majority. Yeah, we can't do games. So I think we're going to have to eat some tyranny if I want to take advantage of this. But that's fine. I mean, we'll wait until this guy makes his move. But yeah, I don't know. It was I kind of think that if you want my opinion, I think okay, that's a little surprising that they're going the long way around like that. Because I would rather... Oh, actually, I know the first road I'm going to make. But yeah, I think one of the reasons why I think movies should be shorter now rather than longer is the fact that television really is acknowledging its ability to tell longer form stories. I mean, it's the reason we have like Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones and things like that. And so, to my view, like if you think about things like Casablanca is a relatively short movie, Network is a relatively short movie, 12 Angry Men, you know, Doctor Strangelove. All of this stuff gets in, says what it needs to, and doesn't stay for too long. And I rather wish that more movies would have the confidence in, you know, in their ability to tell their story visually. I kind of wish that they would be a little more thoughtful in how they spend their time. The Pacific isn't as clearly good versus evil. You're biased as a former Marine. Oh, I did not know that about you, CKY2 Kendall. That's quite that is a very impressive bit of background. I only lifted heavy things on a film set once. But it shows what a meat grinder the island hopping of the campaign was. Okay, actually that makes me want to really see it. There's a fiction series called Masters of the Sea that follows a ship captain during the fight against Carthage. Worth reading and not overly long. That definitely sounds like something that's right up my alley, Sean Bean. Thank you for that. Because one series I'd also like to read are, I guess it's Master and... I can't remember if it was the movie that was called that, or if it was actually the book series, but the Aubrey and Morin... series, the Master and Commander one, because I think the 7 Years' War is fascinating. I believe the movie changed it to the Napoleonic Wars for an American audience, but I'm pretty sure it was either the Revolutionary War or the 7 Years' War. But yeah, it's that's another series I've been looking for. Yes. I don't know if it destroys the ability of a movie to really tell a story, but the type of story is very different. Because like it used to be that TV really wanted to focus on the fact that every episode was self-contained. So like if you watch older television, you don't get these big arcs quite the same way that you do now. Like the idea, like Billions kind of expects you to have been following along. And yeah, they have the recap, but like the whole point of watching Billions is that you have followed these characters over a period of time. Game of Thrones, similar story. Like the shock that happens when major characters die clearly is not the same if you, if you just sit down for your hour or your half hour. And so, I don't know, like, I think the biggest thing is I think movies should actually really go back. What it should be is that movies should go back to the way that they were before TV was a big factor. They should go back to telling the stories that movies are really equipped to tell. The 3-hour movie should be that big tentpole movie that's a big special event, like Lawrence of Arabia or something like that. And that TV should be the place where really elaborate stories that are closer to novels should be told. But of course, I say this as somebody who likes watching movies. There's a reason why they have the structure that they do. Although I will point out that if you have a shorter movie, you can play it more times in a movie theater. So in theory, it should be more profitable. But there's a reason we have the structure that we do. But yeah, 90-minute movies are spectacular. Oh, they are set in the Napoleonic Wars. My bad. But yeah, it's I really do want to read them because everybody, Sterling, like everybody speaks of them the way that you do. Like they're one of the highest things on my to read list. But I definitely want to read Master of the Sea as well. Oh, that would be neat. I mean, Pixar still does a cartoon at the beginning, but that's because there's a cartoon afterwards. We've got Eyes of Sin. Sorry I'm late. How's Conquering Countries, Armies, and the Hearts of Pretty Maidens going? Well, you can tell me about the last one, Eyes of Sin. But we've not really been doing that much conquest. We've been building infrastructure, and we've been letting our manpower go up. So there's lots of strapping young men for the pretty maidens who are not quite won over by my streamer wiles. Focus more on epic? Does it? I mean, that would be a really interesting question. Would Troy or an Odyssey adaptation be better served as a TV show rather than as a single movie? Not that Troy was great, but New Blade Runner is great. I actually kind of want to see the new Blade Runner. It's by a Canadian, no less. But yeah, that is not a general statement. There are some movies that are long that are good. But I just think in general, like, if you look at some of the best movies ever, they're able to get, like, here's the thing about Network. If you've never seen Network, watch it. And if you want to understand how unimpressive it is that most movies now are like 2.5 hours long, consider the number of like plots and subplots that are in Network, how it's able to tie it all together in a satisfying way in the amount of time that it does. Like, there is absolutely no fat on that movie at all, and it's great. And I don't think that the quality of filmmaking has gone down. I just think that we've allowed ourselves to get lazy in terms of the way that we tell our stories. Because honestly, the cutting edge of film is in like commercials and music videos, and those are entirely about telling even more compressed stories. Like 30 seconds is a luxury now. They need to get in with their message in like 5 seconds. So if anything, the highest quality movies, the ones that are using the state of the art, really should be getting shorter, because that's where all the interesting experimentation is going. So yeah, exactly. And like I said, I mean, Lawrence of Arabia, I think, is even closer to 4 hours. Like, Lawrence of Arabia is an amazing movie. And he never watched dailies. He didn't have a friggin' monitor set up. I've had to deal with some dilettante directors who, like, lose their minds if they don't have a TV set to look at the camera, like, look at the scene through. And I'm like, are the actors I never said this, by the way, but it's like, are the actors acting okay? Like, would you like to talk to one of these people who it is your responsibility to get a good performance out of, or are you just going to hide behind a TV set the whole day? Anyways, I always got them where they wanted it. It's just one of these things which There's definitely people who wind up directing who are you know, it's to avoid paying them more money. It's not because they're actually good at it. The wealthier residents of Camarania have sent a formal petition on behalf of the entire province, complaining about the harsh ways of our governor, Secundus Decius Mus. It seems that his taxation policy is causing quite a furor amongst landowners, who are having to work their slaves to the bone in order to meet the tax quotas. It is certainly unusual for our subjects to complain in such a matter. Perhaps we ought to consider their arguments carefully. By the way, guys, I'm sorry for the extra number of tangents. It's partly because Paradox is streaming Imperator, so I sort of know that everybody who really wants to watch that has their outside option. But I'm cutting loose a little bit on this one, and I hope that isn't too off-putting for most people. The director's cut of Kingdom Come Deliverance was nearly an hour longer than the cinematic version. Kingdom Come Deliverance. I thought that was a video game. Are you talking about Kingdom of Heaven? I did not know that he was doing Dune Talking Heads SQ. Oh, I know it's irony, Ed Baver, but I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, like, Ridley Scott is the king of the director's cut. Like, he is. I can't think of a movie he's done. Well, I guess Matchstick Men doesn't have like a director's cut, but it feels like everything he does gets a director's cut. I mean, is anything better served in the 90-minute format versus a long-form TV show? I mean, does American Beauty really need to be drawn out into a TV series? I mean, Alan Ball's certainly very capable of writing a TV series. He did, Hey, Kendall, thank you very much for the... Thank you very much for the sub. Admittedly... Sorry, I'll let Indiana Jones finish. We'll send a representative to ensure the rules are being followed. So, like, Alan Ball did that TV series about undertakers, so he's perfectly capable of working in a serial format. But I'm not entirely convinced that a movie like American Beauty needs it. Or so let's even consider a few other examples, like A History of Violence or Eastern Promises, or sorry, I'm like thinking of all David Cronenberg movies right now. Videodrome. Like, clearly Videodrome has a weird enough world inside of it. Now, okay, admittedly, Videodrome is also not high art, but like, I think the point stands. Videodrome has enough of a weird sort of implied backstory that you could turn that into a TV series if you wanted, but I'm not entirely sure that that movie would necessarily be any better in a serialized format. So I definitely think that there are stories that are appropriate to, to 90-minute movies as opposed to extended TV series. And I think that's true for everything. I mean, there are some things that are probably better as stage plays, or radio plays. Radio drama would be amazing. I'm amazed that we do not have more radio plays because of podcasts, than we do now, because I really think that is something that's due for a revival. And there, like, if you ever go back and look at like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy's basically been on every single format that you could imagine, including a video game. But yeah, I'm a little surprised that because podcasts are so popular that we don't have more people doing proper radio drama. It might be that just we've lost those skills. Vemitu still there? Are we talking about this guy? Oh, I can replace him though. I mean, these will still be these will still be loyal to him. Like, I need to, although, you know, it'd be really... So here's something that's kind of neat about this. I might actually wind up with a... Like, so what might have just wound up happening here is I might wind up with, like, a new recruitment effort. Like, I might just get these legions this legion for free, purely from the fact that the guy that these are loyal to dies before he's able to pull the trigger. Yeah, they're definitely listening to audiobooks, and actually there's a couple of really good ones by Audible Frontiers where they're reading the books, but they definitely put a little bit of drama behind the voices. I think that's one thing that that's a bit of a happy medium. But I do think that there's still a benefit to having proper radio plays. We're not going to do recruitment yet, but I think in this case we'll take the religious tech investment. Often unpaid domestic recording tradition. Often unpaid domestic priests of the Republic had a rich oral tradition passing down legends, history, and errata. By encouraging the transfer of this knowledge to a more solid medium, we may preserve our tradition for all eternity. Okay. I kind of feel like I want to start a war before... let's see if we can find them. Oh, yep, they're right here. They seem to be doing rather well for themselves, and they are currently probably about to expand their borders. Alright, let's just take a quick look at Macedon and see. So they're still at war. They're kind of flat on their back. So here's a devilish thought. We go to war with Macedon. I use the opportunity to do a broader campaign in Egypt. If I don't turn Egypt into a tributary, I at least break them up. It doesn't give me a good answer as to how I deal with the Seleucid Empire, but the Seleucid Empire does not have a really effective way of getting any troops into my region. Holy crap, they also don't have a lot of force behind them. Why can I not remember? I might be able to bring this up again. There's actually a really fun little bit of backstory to the Orson Welles War of the Worlds broadcast. Because there was another radio host that it actually predates the War of the Worlds broadcast, and I believe Wells knew about this. But yes, Ronald Knox. So he's a priest, and basically it was in the 1920s, it was like the mid-20s. And he did a broadcast called Broadcasting from the Barricades. And basically it has like this story of like lynch mobs and just the hotel that it was being recorded in was being destroyed by mortars, and the Parliament building was destroyed and all of that. And it's, in this case, I think most people kind of considered it to have been a bridge too far, because it was like there was genuine unrest in the country that maybe made that less of a, like, it was not quite, it was the sort of thing which was like, okay, there's something wrong going on here. Like, you probably shouldn't do a broadcast like that in this current climate. Yeah, it was kind of neat to find out about that little bit of radio history. And I've been looking for a recording of it. I haven't found one yet, but I also haven't looked very hard, so I am mildly yeah, so I think I'm going to move these guys to the north. I'm going to move these guys This leader is disloyal and pursues his own agenda. Really? Yeah, I don't think this guy's disloyal. But if you like War of the Worlds, that's definitely a little bit of history to check out, because obviously War of the Worlds is the really well-known one, but there was a similar broadcast in the past that that caused a similar stir. Well, I mean, the thing about Egypt is that they're not really that big of a threat at the moment. Oh, they're actually going to be in a civil war in 6 months, so they might want to sit on that. Wow, we really don't spend a lot for this stuff. I mean, if I really want, I can spend money on advances. I think what I am going to do, though, before I go too crazy, I was meaning to do... Carthage is the last batch of upgrades I was meaning to pay for, so let's get that out of the way. Again, this is just trying to make sure that I don't neglect my civilization score. I think I might actually want to wait a little while. It's nice to have some gold in the treasury just in case I need mercenaries, although it's less likely that that's going to occur. Are these guys still at war? No, they're not. Okay, so if they want tribal vassal status, I need to come up with a way of getting 21... You know what? I think at this rate, I'm gonna say I missed the train. I missed the train on this peace round. I just simply do not have the ability to. I don't have the ability to get the. The integration done that I want, or not the integrate, the subjugation done that I wanted. So we will take. I'm going to adjust my diplomatic stance. So essentially, I'm saying I'm giving up on any attempts at peaceful integration. Although I'm not going to try and conquer them. What I am going to do is I'm going to try and sort of swallow up the last of these guys. It's mostly so I can access this fort, although, you know, I might as well take the territory while I'm at it. I won't dedicate too many legions to it. So the real question that I have at the moment is, how do I want to divide my forces for the conquest? Does it make sense for me to just sort of seize Macedon and... you know, and call it a day? I'm assuming Thrace is going to be pretty muscular. Well, you know, they only have 25 cohorts. So, you know, do I just want to go to town on Macedon, and, you know, it's just too bad if I'm not able to, you know, to gain something in Egypt? Do I want to divide my attention so that I can have some units in Egypt causing some trouble, as well as, you know, as well as take advantage of, sorry, I'm running ahead of myself. War King, good to see you. I think probably what I'll do is I'll start war with Macedon. I'll see what it will cost me to try and turn Egypt into some kind of a tributary. Yeah, so here's what I'm going to wind up doing. I'll get these units ready to... I'll get these 2 units ready for a campaign in you know, in the areas that I already have a claim on. I'm going to get a CB on these guys. Now, the thing is, I want this little slice to be on my side. So they'll not like the aggressive expansion, but I actually think I'm going to be able to diplomatically vassalize them. So I'm going to clean up in Serbia, and then, I mean, obviously moving to Veneto is the next logical step. I suppose woe to the woe to the folks who are in between. Of course, it's also important to remember that I actually need to do something to bring people on side with the war. And maybe I'll just eat the tyranny. But yeah, I think... I think I'm gonna start buffing my navy a bit. I don't want to go like crazy about it, but so the plan right now is I'm taking these up to 20. This will also have the side effect of it'll have the side effect of giving me the, like if I want to split them out from the 15 stack, I can always create a new navy out of that. Oh, you know what? I didn't build my infrastructure on... Okay, I actually have a little bit of work ahead of me. What we will do... Oh, sorry. Can you make Egypt a tributary as is? They're a huge nation as well. It's very likely I can't, but I'm going to be interested in seeing what the war score tells me. Who else did we say? Go claim Jerusalem, burn it to the ground in Jupiter's name? It's a little early for that. Yeah, I don't think the tyranny is going to be a deal breaker. So here's what I'm going to do. Again, this is going to be a little bit more about laying the ground. Ah, damn it. I'm going to get into position. I'm not going to pull the trigger yet. If we wind up with another mercantile leader, we might be able to diplomatically vassalize at least one of these regions. If it's the populist candidate, we'll obviously have some problems with the cost for military power, but you know, that's just life. Want all my roads to start in Rome. Although I should probably work something to the coast. But yeah, so I think what we're going to do here, I'm going to position myself such that we'll have a campaign that's ostensibly against Macedon. I will go for my claim on in Subria, but I'm going to wait because I'll get the benefit of the bellicose stance to lower the cost. So I'll spend less oratory power to get a claim. And again, we might give some of that back in the case of a populist candidate. But I'm just trying to figure out the best balance in terms of making sure that I kind of get the maximum value of... I get the maximum value out of these decisions. So... I'm glad that you like that working. Just your opinion again, but settling all your governors culture conversion mode, you can survive the tyranny and greatly increase the happiness, later increasing commerce. Definitely not a bad point to make. I think that will be contingent on me taking the tyranny hit for forcing through a war. So essentially what I'm going to be doing here, here's how the dominoes are going to fall. We may not be able to get through this all in this one playthrough. I want to see what happens with the election. I'm not going to spend the points to knock out the populists. If it's the mercantile candidate, we're going to try and make our move to incorporate at least some of these potential allies. The real drawback here is going to be we need to figure out a way to unseat this fort here, because they built it to level 2. These guys are simply not able to do the trick, and I think they're at 0 manpower now. Yeah, so they're just slowly gonna... Like, I really don't get what the AI is trying to accomplish here, but clearly they're not going to be able to do it. So, if we have the mercantile candidate, it's likely these things will happen. If we don't have the mercantile candidate, then no more Mr. Nice Guy. And at that point, I spend my diplomacy to gain a claim in the north, and we tussle with Macedon. Again, there's the possibility that we'll need to pay for the the tyranny hit, but that's life. Also, while I'm at it, no sense in sitting idle, so we'll build our roads in Sicily. Well, it's not so much the worry that their manpower's up. Like, I mean, when it well, sorry, you're talking about cohorts. Like, I don't actually think they have that many. I don't think they have that many heavy infantry as it is. The thing I'm really focusing on here is the manpower, so I really just need to pick a couple of good fights, and I'll be able to bleed them out. The other thing, too, is that the majority of their forces are almost certainly going to be focused in this lower area here, so I kind of get to munch a bit on their territory. The one thing I was meaning to do, though, so I can't spend all of my cultural power, but I was going to do some of this assimilation. So let's say... in this case, I'll be a little more conservative, and I'll stop at 300. Well, 291 in this case. I also want to make sure I don't go too crazy with my treasury, because it'd still be nice to build infrastructure. All right, so that's Thrace recovering. You know what? I'm a little curious. I might be able to get a peek at what their forces look like with these boats. Yeah, I mean it's 30k plus the 15, which is designed to just devour light. The big thing on this one is the reason why I'm more comfortable with lighter deployment in a war with Macedon is because I have a huge positional advantage. Like these places are murderous for attrition. So if I just sit back and wait to see what their forces look like, the only credible approach that they can take is from the south. If they try to take me in the north, then again their forces bleed out before they can really do that much. What does spook me a little bit is I don't actually see any of their troops at the moment. Treasury-wise, they have enough to recruit some mercenaries. Well, I guess it's not the recruitment that's the problem. It's the retaining and disbanding. But how's the supply limit? Absolutely brutal. So going through these mountains will exterminate me. Where are we? So essentially, if I want to put my really heavy units in, it's going to be through the south. Even here, it's tough. What I'm essentially wanting to try and do is I'm going to divide... Essentially, I'm going to divide the unit in half. I do want to take the forts. I kind of want to get these easy wins because, again, they're fairly easy to hold. And then the bulk of my forces are going to be going in through the south, again, assuming that all this gets cleaned up. But of course, the nice thing is that they're currently fighting, so both Thrace and Macedon are going to have some casualties. If I'm feeling particularly bold, I can actually keep my navy outside of the Macedonian ports, but that's a little... I think that's a little too bold on... I don't want to lose my... Is there a way to increase supply limit? Does it just go automatically over time? Yeah, it's more so... I think I should be able to give you an idea in the tech tree. So I don't think it gives you anything in terms of, like, so the actual progress of, like, levels. By the way, I don't think the game shows you what your enemy's level is, does it? Oh, yes, it does. So they actually have a better army than I do. They're level 6, 7. Yeah, we're actually pretty far behind in the tech game. I should probably be a little bit more... I should probably be a little bit more careful about that, because that's going to be running... That's going to run away from me before too long. Thrace has got, like, nothing. So as far as Macedon is concerned, they actually have a better army than me. So their morale is plus 0.6 compared to my plus 0.5. And of course, but I'm like nowhere near. I'm nowhere near that that improvement. So I should probably be a little more careful on this. But yeah, so you can see here. Oh, you know what? I think I've already put it in. I don't think it shows you the tech that you've already gained, but this will let your supply limits go up. And then there was import trade routes. I think it was oh, you know what? Sorry, Toshiro's got it here. So if you import vegetables, if you eat your greens, you can climb mountains. Anyways, like I said, we're prepping for war with Macedon. There's the possibility that I will still. There's a possibility that I'm going to pursue some diplomatic options. We've got some money to burn, so I will build marketplaces where it makes sense, which is almost everywhere. Main reason for this, of course, is that there's the civic faction is really the one that you want to focus that work on if you can. Okay. I don't think I'm gonna feel too bad about that guy falling ill. I believe he's the one who has the legions that are loyal to him. I want to be a little careful that I don't completely bankrupt the country, but we're making a lot very quickly, so. Yeah, I think I'll dip into the savings a bit just because it will. Greece, not Greece. I keep calling Greece. Ilia Graecia and Epirus still need some investment, but at 56 a month, 4 months is not a lot to build back up to our reserve. Okay, Quintus Marcia Philippus has sent word that he's fallen ill. Perhaps if he is wealthy enough, he will seek treatment of his own volition. Otherwise, we could always step in if his condition worsens. Oh, can we? So he was likely the next consul, so fortune smiles. Or it smirks, at least. In the midst of the fallow season, Gaius Julius Libo, one of our most esteemed governors, held a vast and lavish party in his summer palace. Even his most loyal subordinates were shocked at the display of contempt for the plight of the common man, and have written directly to us demanding that some manner of justice is served. So, again, He's rather corrupt, but he is loyal, so we will demand the payment to the city, and looks like I've got a governorship to give out. So the Claudii would normally get the job. Yeah, see, all the people I want to give the governorship to are disloyal. Or not disloyal, are, they're rebellious, or populist is what I mean. But my consul's on his way out, so he's the head of the Julii family. Is the Julii family content with its lot when it doesn't have a consul? Yep. He individually may not be very happy, but so... you know what? Oh wow, I really don't have any people with oratorical skill. Fair enough. In this case, Marcus Fulvius Curvus, who, you know, I don't need to put a populist in, but number two, he's decent enough. That actually didn't require as much work as I thought it would, but... So it's looking more likely that we will have, some peaceable solutions. We'll do Legendary Foundation. The Mahabharata, the Aeneid, and Homer's great works played heavily on the intertwined relationship between gods and men. The commissioning of such tracts became popular as a tool to inspire a sense of cultural pride amongst the populace. Our tribal neighbor of Phrynitea has started investing a lot of the treasury into opening up the borders between our two nations. Hopefully this will prove beneficial for us as well, though the tribesmen are somewhat more unruly than we are used to. We should keep them in mind, as they can prove good friends in the future as well. Surely only good things can come from this. So, great news! They will be very much inclined to becoming a vassal. It's just... it's not quite working out that way. Improve opinion... not much we can do about that. I am going to send them a gift just to see what that does. Okay. Yeah, we're still at a -22 on that, so... it's possible that the mercantile faction won't even be enough to... I'm just trying to think if there's anything else we can do to put them at ease. I suppose it depends what their particular stance is. They're a neutral stance at the moment. Yes, and yes, you can have access. Hopefully this will make you trust me more. One thing that you noticed on Shenria's stream was that once you put them in a specific position, they are more inclined to change political parties. Could you elaborate a little bit on that? So are you saying that... So, like, I do know... One of the reasons I believe that happens is that when a family is scorned, their loyalty goes down and their populist conviction goes up. So, is what you're saying that, you know, I'm pushing them into populism because of the sort of the jobs I'm assigned, or the fact that I'm keeping them out of jobs. In that case, I agree. And my main deciding factors in those are normally that the characters that I'm keeping out tend to be ones who are already high conviction populists. Obviously, that's it's more of a, I guess it's more of a heuristic more than anything. Like, it's actually a little more refined what I'm doing than just saying if you're a populist you'll never get a job. In practice, that is how that has turned out. But I do tend to so I'm just taking a quick minute here to see if there's anything else I can do to make them happier. Not really. But yeah, the one thing I'm trying to do is to I'm taking the position, which is not really a true one, that people don't change, and as a result, I tend to just exclude populists out. But Sappho of Lesbos is Greek, but the game reminded me of her. She was the most famous, probably lesbian poet. I always had an idea for a theme park on Lesbos. Yeah. So let's say you put a populist in the military researcher. Over time, he'll be more inclined to become part of the military faction and leave the populist faction. His ruler also changed from populist faction and joined the military faction. Neat. So let me just take a quick look, because the game should tell me exactly how those dynamics work. I never actually really looked at how people's convictions change. So let's take the Tribunus Militum, who is currently a member of the religious orders. So yep. So it turns out that so the monthly change towards the military faction, the Tribune of Soldiers will give plus 0.05, and then of course the fact that normally you're going to put people in a given role. He obviously has a high martial skill, which is why he is Tribune of Soldiers. So obviously, in the case of Gaius Junius Bulbacus, he's never going to change because party leaders never change conviction. But we could go into our characters screen. Let's show characters. Let's say we want... So let's maybe say we're going to pick some new researchers. And let's say... Apparently you can only have dudes for researchers. Okay, so all our best military men are friendly, best civics, most charismatic. Maybe I just want to restructure everything so that I have these rock stars in my research labs. Apparently I don't have any good populists, despite the fact they always keep showing up. Okay, Numerius Sempronius Sophus. Actually, you know what? Better option would be this family I keep scorning. Oh yeah, he's super. I'm not gonna change. He's 70 years old. That guy is gonna die a populist for sure. But yeah, your point is well taken. So like I've got a level 6 pontiff. Hostus Claudius... Okay, here we go. Hostus Claudius... You're here somewhere, damn it. There he is. Well... Oh, actually, it's his corruption that made him do that. But like, he would have been a perfect candidate to put in that role, because had he not become insanely corrupt, I could have made that family happier, which would have lessened the populist conviction, and he would have been boosting his religious. That's a good point that you make. So like, I'm not 100% sure I'd completely change everything that I was doing, but I definitely should be checking those marginal characters a little bit more. Alright, I think I was gonna work these guys to the port. And you know what? I'm slightly mad at myself that I'm forcing it this way, but I really want to have a road through. It's mostly just because I know that there's no defenses in this area right now, so... alright. I also need to pick an invention. Starting experience is kind of tempting. Province import route. Is that everyone? That's great if that's true. Slave output's also rather good, but I'm in a comfortable financial position. Yeah, I think in this case I'm going to see River Outpost, because if every province gets a +1, trade flows with the tide. Oh, you know what? You have to probably pay for it. Trade flows with the tide, they say, but the rivers are the veins and arteries of our commercial network. Establishing regular outposts along them will give traders a sense of security and attract greater investment. Oh, okay, apparently the capital at least gets one. That's a lie. Can I really not? Oh, because it's the civic power. Yeah, sadly it has to be city to city. Yeah, it really is. It's actually one of the reasons why I'm building the way that I'm doing. It's not necessarily the most efficient roadway. It's the one that I would be willing to sustain sort of my lazy play with. The honorable people of Sicania have turned out in droves to see the renowned general Postumus Cornelius Scipio lead the troops on their way to greater glories. A delegation from Cephalodium have requested the honor of sending a number of their young men to join the army, citing their virtual fanaticism as a great boon during warfare. What could go wrong? Sign them up. So we get 5 loyal cohorts of a random type. Show me his army. He is in charge of the 9th Legion. Yeah, it's not so bad actually. I mean, this thing is gonna have like just appalling attrition in some regions, but elections coming up. I don't really want to mess around with, no, we still don't have the points. The Frisian Revolt wants to import goods. Sounds good. Mercantile almost certainly will win. Holy crap, we have no military points. Postumus Valerius Corvinus has been elected to office and will now rule a glorious nation. Now the good news is that he's going to be great for cultural conversions. The mercantile faction is now in control, giving you the following benefits: commerce, income, diplomatic reputation. We need a new governor for Epirus. So he's got 100 conviction for the populist faction. So just before I go too far through, Tremuli. Actually, I'm reasonably good with my distribution right now, so the Tremuli are a nice, like, second best. Yeah, I don't really have anybody to go for it. Not crazy about the Cruel, but he is one of my better civics, so... And let's get some of that trade in finally. I just want amber, man. I do want to be focusing a little bit on the cap. Oh, I can bring in. So this is gonna be horse archers, which would be really cool, actually. I don't think I want to do it though. There is an argument for grain, especially because that'll actually help me in two forms. One, it will improve my it improves my manpower, which is nice. But two, it actually also helps me out with the starvation problems I was having. Of course, the same argument could be made about the fish, and that'll help my freeman happiness. There is a good argument for me to stop importing the stone now. Yeah, actually, you know what? I have quite a bit that I can run around with, now that I think of it. So I don't have the civic power to pay for it, but let's say... I really should have emptied out the treasury with the old guy. So let's start with grain. And as I get my civic power up, I'm actually going to change the composition of trade. Okay, so let's see if these guys have warmed up to me enough. Oh, Jesus. Ah, this really may not be enough. Okay, cool. I'm completely willing to take the tyranny hit for that. Although I bet what's my popularity at? Not Rome has gold greater than or equal to 38107. Go to hell. Oh, I bet he doesn't have the gold though. Yeah. That's why. Can I bribe myself? We've got a new military tradition, so I can reduce my monthly war exhaustion, or I can go up. Now, State Navy's kind of tempting. Let's see what the remaining avenues go. Well, I actually have what I need for these guys. Now it's just a matter of me. I mean, if I get the tyranny, I get the tyranny. But I was trying to see if there's a clever way that I can make myself more popular. Recovery speed is pretty cool, and Triplix, yeah, I think going down... The war exhaustion's alright. I'm really not that crazy about the Velites, but the rest of these I think are worth it. So, professional soldiers. The evolution of a levied fighting force into a professional standing army paid dividends in terms of quality and expectation. The salaried soldier was much less likely to balk at orders or to flee from combat. And of course, that'll put a damper on our road building for a little while. Oh, for God's sake, they're at war. Alright, well, the nice thing is that the improve relations is going to tick for a little while. Alright, have a good one, Gilshan. Technically, I should be done by now, but we're on the verge of some bigger moves, so... Camillus Fulvius Curvus succumbed to lunacy at the age of 49. He was a general of the 3rd Legion and likely next consul. So... that guy is a true believer as far as the populists are concerned. So we'll give him... There's so many people involved in this war. The good news, of course, is that the longer I wait for all of this, just the higher my manpower keeps going up. I will... So the good news is I don't own all of this territory, so... The denizens of the shining city of Clocaria have been feuding with their neighbors in Phanim Carisi. As a result, the impressive fortified wall is being erected, quite outdoing the efforts of their rival. As they say, conflict drives innovation. I'll take the free fortress. Okay, we're still doing okay for money, so although I own more of this region, so I want to be careful because there's going to be... I want to actually keep my reserve a little bit higher. I am tempted to empty the treasury as close as I can. Oratory advances. Part of this is because the sooner I can get rid of my build bonus, the sooner I can start importing some goods that I'd prefer. There's clearly a lot that I can be building across the Empire, but the civilization bonuses are very welcome. Okay, so I'm looking at 300. What am I earning still? Oh, we're getting a little low, but this does open options for me, so... The Diplo option's grayed out because the state's currently at war, so you can't demand vassal status while they're at war. That's why I went... So, I didn't know that they were going to count as being at war right away. I obviously wouldn't have leapt on that as soon as I could have. I guess I can appoint a new general. This guy's a true believer, so... Holy crap, I'm out of good generals. That's why I tend to prefer the improve opinion option, just because it kind of gives you a boost over time. So if I wind up making a mistake like that, it doesn't immediately start decaying. Yeah, I mean, I'm avoiding. So the trade is definitely one thing. I wanted to make sure that I got my my building done. So now I've got the civic advances. I am going to take a quick second here because again, it's an opportunity cost thing, right? I want to see if there's a way that I can maybe get a little bit more. Slave output, for instance, is a good one. War score cost would also potentially be useful. But in this case, I think I'm going to. I think I will sacrifice the stone. Okay, first of all, I do want to get my Freeman happiness up. And... I thought I had a surplus of dyes already. So that'll definitely help me with my... I know those are probably not the choices people wanted me to make, but I'm trying to slightly push my my scientific efforts. Okay, I have some oratory. I want to be a little careful on the oratory because I am going to need that for some other things, but while we're at it, we can at least get... I'm at least going to get the citizens moved over. Okay. I still have all my work ahead of me for the other regions and such. I suspect... I still don't know if this is referring to... Yeah, I'm still never sure if this is referring to the source. Captain Bear asks, so in this game do you play as Rome itself or more a house within the Roman Empire? You actually do both. So the constant in the game is sort of the nation state. Or maybe not nation states, Europa. So you are constantly Rome, but you will play a succession of consuls of Rome, which means that you're going to... I should probably do some religious conversion while I'm at it. Just want to make sure I have enough for the omen, but... But yeah, so the current character I can sort of be considered to be playing is Posthumus Valerius Corvinus, head of the Valeri family, who has certain abilities, certain detriments in terms of their ability to govern. And essentially what this gives me is a... while I'm playing this particular character, I can try and build relationships which will make it more likely that certain characters will become the consul over others. But ultimately, it's not Crusader Kings in the sense that if some other character becomes consul, I am probably more interested in their interests than the previous character I was. So it's not quite as richly realized as Crusader Kings 2, let's say. But it's it definitely has I think this is a new war. Yeah, they slapped around these guys. God, it is so tempting to start a war with these guys right now. The thing is, the longer this war goes on, the more they bleed out, so... but yeah, anyways, the big thing, though, of course, is that it's not the Roman Empire until you make it that. At the moment, I'm a major power, but I'm not... Okay, I know this is going to be boring for folks. I'm actually going to sit back on this. There is a plan. In the meantime, I'm going to... Primary culture happiness is a mighty tempting one, but I think I am going to do slave output. As Villicus in Rome was an often well-treated slave who was elevated over his or her brethren, this practice often resulted in easier communication with the slave population in a given enterprise. So, okay, this may not be... Oh, hey, the Civil War came and went. Yet another bitter civil war has finally come to an end with the loyal forces of Olympiodoros Lagrid utterly crushing the rebel armies led by Philotyros Philotide and his scheming cohorts. In a pitched battle of Babylon almost ended in the rebels' favor. However, decisive maneuver by Olympiodoros Lagrid won the day for the loyalists. The outcome of the war is largely irrelevant to us, as we do not consider Egypt a friend or an enemy. Nevertheless, we ought to be careful now that their nation is on track to recovery. So, how is Egypt looking, by the way? They've got their groove back, although I don't think their navy's all that impressive. I mean, 34. There was a time when that was all that I had on the shelf, but I could actually afford to buff these. You know what? Autonomy. The industrious folk of Urium have excelled themselves, contributing their own personal funds to develop the infrastructure in their fine city. We hope this attitude can be mirrored by some of our less loyal subjects. I'm happy with another granary. I also want to take a quick look at loyalty. Everything seems to be peachy keen. These regions didn't rebel, so they're a little bit slow in moving up. And I do need to be a bit careful about this, because if I do decide to go on the warpath again, that's going to be a tricky one. I also think, against my better judgment, I'm going to recruit another legion. It's just going to be my standard build. We'll build Principes in Rome. And then I'll expand those out, and then I'm also going to build another fleet. Although the problem is, I don't think I'm going to have any. I don't think I'm going to have any generals to take over for these. Okay. I think I'm going to be ending soon. So, if you had asked me a little bit before, I would have gone for the Blessing of Mars. Because I was certain that we would be going to war. The big thing is that this might take a while, but it's entirely possible that this war will finish and I'll be able to demand tribal vassal status. In addition to that, one way or the other, this rebellion's going to be over soon. I mean, these guys have just completely stripped away their army trying to do this siege. This is very strange to look at. So the thing is, I have everything that I need in terms of starting this war. But I think the cost to me of changing my stand, like essentially, the worst that happens to me for not going to war is that my manpower keeps going up. I'm able to build new legions, and I am just all the more prepared for an eventual conflict. Like the way my navies are right now, I've got such a surplus and everybody's in position that essentially I'm going to be able to blockade every port of Egypt. It might even get to the point that I make a legion that's dedicated to just, being a bunch of light units that run around and take out their, some of their ports and such. So the fact of the matter is I don't actually think... I mean, the way that I've been playing... Now, of course, I have the starvation problem again. That one I think I'm just gonna try and fix with... I don't think granaries are gonna be enough. But yeah, so like the thing is that had I been asked this a little bit earlier, I would have chose Blessing of Mars. But it's a very similar decision to what I did before. Population growth would be nice if I had to deal, because of the Rome problem. But the fact of the matter is I did say that I was flipping between the Blessing of Ceres and the Blessing of Minerva. And in this case here, like I did say that I was focusing more on research in general. So the Blessing of the Goddess of Wisdom will inspire our artists and craftsmen in their search for knowledge. With these great insights, we are sure to be able to progress and compete with our enemies and our neighbors. Rumors says the goddess once hailed from Libya, and now she is fully a part of the Hellenic pantheon and plays an important role as the goddess of wisdom, crafts, and war. Unlike her male counterpart, she is usually seen as a patron for the more tactical and strategic type of warfare, and they are known for opposing each other at Troy and in many other famous battles. Minerva is the patron of the city of Athens, with the largest temple dedicated in her honor standing in the Acropolis. So, I'm gonna select this, and I'm sorry guys, but I am going to bed, because I really don't know any other better way to say it. It completely kills my enjoyment. It kills any energy I'm feeling on a good cast to be told how to play the game. And I've said it a few times. I know people are well-meaning when they do that, but every time it happens in chat, I just want to turn off the stream and, like, not do it again. So I wanted to go longer. I really wanted to do the war. I just don't have the energy to do it anymore. And I know that's something that you guys want to do, and that is how you engage with streams and that, but that is unfortunately the reason I'm finishing tonight. It's not, you know, shame on you, you're a bad person for doing that. But I really don't know. I really don't know how I can be more clear on this. So unfortunately, this is going to be a purely peaceable stream. I'm sorry if people are disappointed by that, or if they're disappointed by me being so open, you know, about the effect that it has, but it is, you know, it is what it is. Like, some people are okay with it. I'm really not. So, and yeah, working. Like, I appreciate it. You know, I try to let it slide. I'm usually very subtle on it. And you're obviously not the only one, but I'm just sorry, guys. Like, I just don't have any gas left in the tank on this. So, it's possible that next Monday, I will do a new Iron Man playthrough to, to do the updated patch. I will keep this saved because I'm kind of interested in seeing whether or not the whole plan, whether or not the whole plan kicks on. Like, I do genuinely want to see if it was worth it for me to wait to try and diplomatically, vassalize these folks before the war. Because obviously if I gobble up Macedon and if I attempt to, to break up Egypt, I'm going to suffer a lot of aggressive expansion and all of that. So, like, in my opinion, it is an interesting position to be into that I kind of want to see the end of. And I think the big thing that's really kind of creating the dilemma here is that these guys are always in war. The one thing that I kind of wish the most is if there was some sort of a little notification window, like what we, like there is in Europa Universalis 4. But I mean, I keep comparing it to Europa, and it is its own game. So, anyways, let me just take a quick second here because I don't want to end on a negative note. Like, I'm sorry to have said it that way. I appreciate people's, apologies and that, but I am already over time on it. It's past midnight, and I am trying to get to work early anyway. But like I essentially, when you're at that marginal time, is like, maybe I can go like an hour over, maybe I can go a little bit longer. It doesn't take a lot to push me over the edge on that. But like I said, I don't want to end on a negative note. So, this was, of course, the last time that I get I get sort of an exclusive access to Imperator Rome. You guys are going to be able to play this in a few hours. I'm going to be hosting somebody by the end of it, so we can hang out and find somebody to host. But yeah, I've had a really good time with this game, and again, this is one of the reasons why I want to be clear about some of the things that make it a negative experience to stream. But I have had a wonderful time with everyone here in this channel. It's been really neat to see, new faces, to be able to talk about different things, to talk about the things that you're interested in the game, what you're learning, to have the process of sharing the experience of learning the game. This has been great. Like, there is absolutely a reason why I put so much extra time into streaming this game, and I am as much interested in focusing on the very positive experience that I had with the game. I mean, it's, again, the particulars of a given moment in chat or something like that are going to be, they're not ideal, but they're also not going to be something that just completely eclipses the experience for me. I've had a wonderful time learning Imperator Rome and sharing it with you. For some of you, this might be it. I know traditionally when it comes down to that's the big question right now, Sean Bean. So I'm going to try and address that as best as I can. For some people, this was the same with Stellaris. It was sort of, I only got a chance to see people for a while when when the game was still in the pre-release stage, and I, once it came out, there was sort of everybody went their separate ways, and that's kind of the way it's supposed to be. Again, it's fun to have a big community behind these games, and these games are definitely more fun to play than they are to watch, in my opinion. So I hope you all enjoy it as much as I have enjoyed it, if not more. In terms of my own stuff, if you do want to keep watching me and if you do want to keep hanging out, one thing to keep in mind is that the normal pattern for the stream is that Mondays are dedicated Paradox games. Wednesdays, I consistently do Cultist Simulator, which is by Weather Factory, that consists of Alexis Kennedy, the person who wrote the Horizon Signal DLC for Stellaris, and Lottie Bevan, the producer of Weather Factory, and seemingly woman with superpowers, because she does just about every other role, it feels like. And then Friday winds up kind of being a bit of a free day. We've been doing a lot of Darkest Dungeon, but it's also been a job for, it's been a place for XCOM and Mass Effect and all of that. But the big thing to remember is that I know most of you are here for strategy stuff, and so it just simply may not be your cup of tea. And again, that's completely fine, because I know I don't necessarily like misrepresenting the stream other than what it is. For those of you who do still hang around, I do have a slight dilemma in the fact that I've got a pretty fun Stellaris campaign going forward. Or sorry, not going forward, but that was going on when Imperator came out. So here are the things that I am currently considering. I'm always happy to get feedback in terms of what you would individually like to see. You can always say that inside of chat, or you can say it in Discord or on Twitter or anything else along those lines. And it's... I am keeping this save file. It may not be compatible with the release version of the game. That's why I'm seriously debating that if I do this game regularly on Mondays or some other dedicated day, I'm considering doing like a new Iron Man playthrough, because I feel comfortable enough with the game now that I can take my lumps and not really feel like the game is just completely putting the screws to me for not knowing some arcane mechanic. There's obviously mechanics that I need to learn, and there's clearly, obviously people have different ideas in terms of what the priorities are and such. But at the moment, that is what I'm leaning towards. If you would like to see this playthrough continue, let me know. Especially because it'll probably mean me reverting back to an old version or whatever. But again, this is a version that's pretty easy for me to mess around with, because it's a regular save file, so I can open the console and mess around and things like that. I also want to find a way of finishing off that Stellaris playthrough. So I am sort of considering on doing Imperator every Monday. That's traditionally how it's been. When I get a press key for something, that sort of gets priority. But I don't want to just leave Stellaris under the... let it sort of fall under the bus. So... or throw it under the bus, I suppose, is the actual phrase that I'm trying to find. So if you'd like to see that still be Monday and Imperator move to a separate day, I'd consider that. Or vice versa, that I can do Stellaris on a dedicated day. We can finish off the story of Rhizome Capital. It will be finished one way or the other. The other thing that I'm considering is turning that into a vodcast. And so I'll play it on my own private time when I have a spare minute. And I can make those videos that sort of play during my off hours. And that's another way that we can get a little bit more content. I could also, incidentally, if people do like seeing vodcasts of the game, I can do the same for this playthrough of Imperator, where, you know, obviously I wouldn't get sidetracked by, you know, responding to things in terms of chat. I'd probably make a little bit more progress inside of the game. So if you just want to see how this playthrough would have ended if left to my own devices, I can definitely do those in the forms of VODs as well. So, yeah, no, I hear you on that, Penology, and it's a tough one. I did have a mod in the past, but it's definitely a tricky one, especially too because it's tough to give people to make people have that kind of commitment. But yeah, no, I do appreciate that. So we do have a few people saying that they like to continue seeing the playthrough. There is demand for Stellaris as well. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I think I kind of have some ideas about how I can move forward on this. The one thing I will say is that I have definitely overrepresented what I can do with streaming. Again, I probably shouldn't bring back the negative or that. It is important to remember that yesterday was really my only day off. I normally do 3 streams a week. And take Canadian holidays off, and I haven't taken a Canadian holiday off this year. So I have really been pushing the streaming thing a lot harder than I normally do. So there's going to be a bit of me time that I wind up taking. I'll still do the regular Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but there's going to be a little less Imperator, and there's going to be... you know, it's going to be a little bit more like I'm taking some time to myself. I did get some of the Elder Scrolls episode pre-recorded for that in mind, so don't be alarmed if like you see a lot less of me. It's just things going back to the way that they normally are. But again, I'm having a great... The thing is that I am having a great time with all of these games. Like, I have a great time with Stellaris. I'm having a great time with Imperator Rome. I know a bunch of people are going to be playing this now that it's out, or well, once it's out in a little bit. So there's probably going to be a little bit of a sort of a ramp up while I find my equilibrium. Yeah, I mean, Ed Baver, I'll be honest with you, like, I generally, even like friendly advice and things like that, it has worked a lot better for me when people talk about like quality of life stuff, where it's like, oh, did you know that you can like shift click and it will queue up jobs or something like that? Generally, like, you should, or this button does this, unless it's like a direct... I don't know what this is, could somebody tell me statement. Generally, the line is a pretty stark one. And I realize that for a lot of people that's a really strict one. It's just that the problem is that as soon as I allow the friendly advice, I've never had a situation where chat has not turned into anything other than just, you know, every second or third message winds up being somebody telling me how to play the game, and usually things that I already know. And I've tried a few different methods to try and get around it. I used to be really harsh to people when they were doing it, and it made some of the regulars have a good time because people are not accustomed to hearing me be very mean to people. But I've stopped doing that when the channel grew because it's a little harder to have people in on the joke on it, and it's not necessarily a type of I don't think it's a type of behavior that I really want to normalize. It also makes me just generally a little more angry as a person. Like, if you feed that, it tends to come up a little bit more. So it's like the thing is the mod that I had previously kind of wanted it more for the status badge. They didn't really do the job. Which is fair enough. It's just that I need to think a little bit more about how I do the management thing. But again, it's an area for growth for me as a streamer. Like finding, if I can find a way to make it that people still enjoy the stream and I don't get frustrated, you know, everybody will win in that case. And like I said, you know, I do need to go, like the thing is I need to go to bed one way or the other. So it's why I wanted to do a proper debrief of the game and get an idea in terms of what people wanted to see moving forward. So it's not I think I actually have a few commands like that. I'm sorry, by the way, guys, I am going to host someone tonight, so I don't I know I always take a long. Yeah, there is oh yeah, no, it's all again working. I don't want to be. I actually probably shouldn't have I'm replying with what Ed Baver said. Honestly, guys, I like. In personal life, I'm actually really bad at holding long-term grudges. On stream, I completely get where people are coming from on these things. Like, honestly, I'm sorry I didn't know, or I'm sorry even like, I'm sorry I know you don't like that, and I just, I got really excited. That's all that it needs. Like, I'm actually really fine about it. I realize I'm talking about it again. I shouldn't have, because I'm just responding to stuff that comes up in chat. We are fine. Like, I would be delighted if I saw you guys come in and chat again, and it will be, hey, great to see you again. Are you ready to see Rome conquer? Not, hey, I'm watching you. Like, we're good. But yeah, I appreciate you guys saying that, but please do not, like, there's not some, like, there's not some oath of enmity. For Sean Bean's, benefit, there is actually a command. If you are interested too, from the Crusader King's Day, you got one of these. Very few people will remember this, very few people will will remember that that playthrough, but also some of the people who I like. So there's a few of those. But yeah, anyways, guys, I hope you all have a great time with Imperator. I was really excited to play this. Oh crap! I need to delete some of these then. Oh Jesus Christ! Yeah. Some of those are supposed to be secret. There's a lot of fuck those guys who wind up in the list. Well, they're not secret anymore. Anyways, I'm sorry guys, because I know some of you are waiting for the host and such. But yeah, no, like I said, I hope you guys do have a really good time with Imperator. For those of you who do get it, I was excited to play it. I got what I was interested in. I think it will be, and like, I'm really excited. I think one of the things is that there are a few places where I'm like, I can see where there will be room for improvement on these. Not to a point where I say it's not to a point where I say like it's bad for that. It's just more like, I have a feeling this is probably where things will expand out. So I hope you enjoy the highs as much as I do, and that any of the lows do not, aren't like a deal breaker for you. There's a reason I spent over 30 hours playing this game for the last little while. And I am really looking forward to putting some more time inside of it. For those of you who are picking it up, do consider the pre-order, because obviously you'll get some extra stuff out of it. If you do want to wait to see what the reviews say, obviously you can do so. but I'm assuming, at least if you get it on Steam, it's 2 hours to figure out whether or not you like it. So I believe you can still return a pre-order if it comes down to that. What else? I think that's it. Sorry for such a long and elaborate and depressing ending, but what I'm going to do, I realize this is not really like this is not like the choice host. I'm sure some of you will disperse to other streamers that you prefer. I'm actually going to host the Paradox Interactive channel because I kind of want to see what they're up to, and they are doing a 24-hour release stream for the release of Imperator. So if you want to see Paradox play this game, I'm sure you already know about the channel, but I'm going to toss it over to them, mostly because I like the idea of... One of the plans I was thinking of doing, if I could have got the day off of work, was to actually stream the game up to release, but Paradox is doing that already, so I will leave you in their capable hands. You do not need to do the raid message. If you say so, Isepson. I'm definitely not accustomed to I don't think of myself that way, but neglect of appearance becomes men. That's an Ovid quote for you. Anyways, you don't need to do the raid message. Obviously, I don't know Paradox, but I will put you in their capable hands because they are going to see you through to release. Have a good one. We will see you Friday for whatever the hell I figure out I'm playing. For those of you who are wondering where that cult game was, that'll be back next week. Monday I'll probably do Imperator, and we'll figure out what the devil's going on with Stellaris in the future. So, all right. Sounds like I've got plans for the evening. Have a good one, guys. Enjoy Paradox.